All right, guys, what's up? This is Inside the North Side coming to you from the North Side. What's up, everybody? How are y'all doing? It's Friday. I'm very excited because I'm off Monday and I'm off next Friday. So, what's good with everybody? Anyways, so we have a special guest. She has been on the online dating episode, so she's back with a vengeance. But yeah, she's back. Sandra is back. Thank you, Sandra, for joining the show again.
No, thank you for having me again. Woo!
Well, I mean, you did respond, so, and I was like, yeah, I need to have her on again. So, anywho, so how have you been?
I've been good, just chilling. 2021 kind of started rough, but kind of get the wheels, going.
Yeah, you got to get them greased and all that. So, anything new changed with you ever since the online dating episode?
Yeah. Yeah, it did. I got married, had a couple of kids since then. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, damn. Well, that's crazy.
Well, after that episode I said, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to swear off forever. And then I was bored after I came back from vacation and I ran into someone.
Ooh.
Bobby again. No, I'm just kidding. No, somebody.
Damn. So, first things first, what was it? What was I going to say? So how was your trip to New York? Tell the listeners about your vacation to New York City, the Big Apple.
That was amazing. I was there for 8 days and, I tried to do all the sightseeing and it was lots of walking. I actually left like 3 days before Snowmageddon over here. Everybody was back.
Everyone was like, I was like, damn, she just missed it. And like, we're all here freezing her ass and she's up there just like enjoying. And I was like, damn, bro.
living her best life.
Yeah, we're all down here just like cold as hell. I swear, it felt like those 4 days felt like one big day. Really, it was just horrible. I mean,
I landed and it was as if nothing happened. Like the electricity was running, water was working, everybody was driving the freeway. So I was like, I mean, what can I do? But 8 days was so long in New York. Like I was ready to come home. I was like, all right, cool. I visited, let's go.
Yeah. So what did you do your first day?
My first day, I went to Hudson Yards. So that's where like they have that awkward like building kind of thing that you used to be able to go up there, but they recently closed it. And then we just did that. And I think, what else did I do that day? I have to like recall because we did a lot of things, but majority of the stuff I can tell you like you can do in like 4 days.
Mm-hmm. Did you have to quarantine when you got there?
Thankfully, no, we didn't.
Okay.
So we took precaution of like, so if we didn't take the COVID test, we had to quarantine for 14 days. Okay. And if we went into the state, with a negative COVID test, like 72 hours prior, we only had to do 3 and then on the 4th day, take the test. And if we came back negative, we could go out and they asked you for all that information. But they asked us for our information, like if we were going to quarantine the last day that we were there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I'm not answering. So the first day I did Hudson Yards and I did Times Square.
Ooh.
And Times Square, honestly, if I'm going to be honest, it's super small. Like it's smaller than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
So I was disappointed.
Yeah. Steph's brother had went to New York a couple of years ago and he said the same thing. He was like, I'm so disappointed in everything. And I was like, what do you mean disappointed? And he started telling us like all this stuff. And I was like, oh shit, I guess it's not like it is in the movies.
It's not like, even like whenever you see it on TV, you think of like it, like you think it's like streets, but it's not. It's literally like a diamond shaped, thing. And it's all it is. But minus, I think I went at a great time because there wasn't a lot of people like surrounding the area. You were able to walk by So I mean, it was fun. I had fun.
Yeah, because I know during that time, they were dealing with their whole little COVID issues themselves. So I can assume and imagine that they didn't have that many people there.
No, they had just actually opened up their restaurants 25% the first day. So we got lucky.
Nice. That's nice.
I can tell you though, as soon as I saw like the meal, one of my first meals that I paid for, I was like, yeah, Texas could never. I want to go back. And that's just me. I went to go eat ramen, and I paid $40.
$40.
$40.
Hey yo, what the fuck?
And how big was the bowl?
Like a regular ramen bowl. You know how like they're like this big.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, it was good, but it wasn't $40 good.
Did it come with anything else? Did it come with like, cheese sticks or something? Mm-mm. No? 40 chingo, man.
I know.
I'd be like, just, no, I don't want it. Just give me like the cheapest thing. Give me the cheapest thing ever you got here. So what did you do your second day?
Second day was Central Park, the Bathsheba Garden, which is like the big fountain with the angel in the middle. It's kind of famous in the movies. The Rockefeller Center, and then St. Patrick's Cathedral.
Oh, nice. So is Central Park really like super huge?
It is. I think we did a little more than half of it that day, and we didn't even get around to, the hotel that comes out in Home Alone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I was like, I want to see it, because it comes out in the movie. It's one of my favorite Christmas movies. We didn't even get around to that side.
Really?
But there was like people jogging, and there was still snow. There was a whole bunch of snow on the ground, and it was super cold, and people were running in shorts. And I was like, I'm over here like layered up, and they're over here like just jogging in shorts. And I was like, I want to be them.
They're used to it. I mean, because it's like cold for a good chunk of the year up there. So.
Yes, and I can tell you, like the architect, like the buildings over there are so nice. Like they're so pretty because they're so old.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that was one of my things. Third day, we did the Washington Park. We did the flat building, so it looks like it's flat whenever you're staring at it, and then you walk to the side, and it's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then we did the Friends apartment. So if there's any Friends fans out there, we saw the front of the building.
It's in the show's based in New York. I thought it was based in Seattle.
No, it's based in New York.
That shows how much I pay attention to pop culture shit.
And then we did the Madame Tussauds Wax Museum.
Ooh,
that was amazing. I was like, man, for another $40, I was like, look, this better be worth it. And it was definitely worth the $40.
So what are the price differences from here to New York City? Like, what's like a price difference?
Like in food or just like
in general? Like in general, food, drink,
I was paying about $20, between $20 to $25 just for myself. And here we pay like about $15, $20. Depending
where we go.
Yeah, depending where you go. But I was like, look, this whole paying $20, $25 a day, 3 times, it's getting kind of old.
Exactly, because he's like, I'm running out of money.
Yeah, and it's like all my money went to food.
That's crazy. And I heard that they don't have like large drinks or something like that. It's kind of just like one size or something like that.
I didn't see that. We did go to Chick-fil-A while we were over there, and McDonald's.
Ooh.
Did I get a large drink in McDonald's? Can't remember. No, I didn't. But I think at Taco Bell I did. I did, but I think they do have them. I honestly like.
Because I heard
so much walk.
I heard from a friend of mine some time ago that she said that they have it's like they have a large, but their large is probably like this small, and it's not like how we have here where it's like a big gulp size,
Oh, like you mean like the jumbo size?
Yeah.
I get you. Sorry, I'm getting a show over here. Y'all can't see it, but
it's funny. It's fine. It's okay.
I'm getting flashed. Be right back.
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
But no, yeah, I know what you mean. Kind of like the sides from Buc-ee's, like those big old cups.
Yeah.
I never saw those. I was like, no, yeah. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go back to Texas. Honestly, like on a scale of 1 to 10, I think I won't ever want to live in New York unless I have to.
Yeah.
That's not something.
Yeah, I've never been to New York, but what I've heard, it's kind of like it's really different, and like the prices are really like exaggerating crazy. And like I had a coworker, he said when he was younger he wanted to move to New York until he visited, and he was like, "Nah, this is crap. I'm going. I want to stay home in Texas. It's fine over here."
And yeah, and like you said, it's like cold all the time. I think the warmest day that we had when I was there was 53 degrees.
Damn, that's
yeah.
We're over here. We're just like,
yeah, we're like, no, but it was actually pretty warm. But that same day that I did the Central Park, at the entrance of Central Park, right across the street, you have the Trump Hotel, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna run in there.
Hey guys, you got any? Is he here? Is he here yet? No. Okay.
Can I twerk? Can you give me some more money?
That's funny. So did you guys like go and do like, I mean, did they have like their nightlife open? Like any like clubs or bars open, anything like that? Or was it just restaurants?
A lot of the stuff was closed. Majority.
Boo.
Just like the big touristy stuff was open. Like I said, whenever we got there, we did get lucky that they opened up the restaurants 25%. I think my favorite part of New York was we went to the Statue of Liberty. We got to do that, and then the Empire State Building was one of my favorite days. Like, we went twice to the Empire State Building because the first day it was super foggy, and we got there right as the fog was rising up. So we're kind of sad. We're like, oh man, like this is gonna be the only time that we get to see this. And then one of the last nights, my friend's little sister was like, hey, it's the perfect time like to go back up to the Empire State Building and all this stuff. And I was like, look, it costs $91 to go up there right now.
How much?
$91. But it depends on the time of day that you choose. Depends how high you want to go up to. Like we went all the way up to the 102nd floor. It's a little bit cheaper if you went to the observatory. So she was like, no, like I got us. She's like, I'm only saying, she's like, because I'm going to pay for the whole thing. And I'm like, you're paying for that? Then let's go.
Ain't gonna turn that down.
I was like, if you're paying, what do you need? What do you want? What do you want? I'll give you anything. Do you want the expensive duck we saw?
So
because you see, the Chinese restaurants here, they don't showcase like, or they don't put on our menu that they have like this super exotic food. And over there, they had like mini little like fried pigs, and then like fried duck. And I was like, you would never see this back home. And I was like, do you want that for dinner? I'll buy you that for dinner.
Yeah, I do notice that like you don't really see them in the Chinese restaurant. I think it depends on maybe where you go. Maybe like in like Bel Air or Chinatown, maybe you might see like the duck or the little pigs or something like that. But me personally, if you go to like Panda Express, you're not gonna see that.
You're not gonna see it there. Exactly. It's crazy, but I was like, okay. It's like, well, whatever.
Did y'all go to any like little markets or anything like that, or was that close too?
We did Little Italy and Chinatown. They're Chinatown.
Oh, okay.
And they're literally right next to each other, so there was no missing it. We did go into like little gift shops and things like that. We passed by a restaurant in Little Italy, and they're like, oh, like come have a dessert, blah blah blah. And we're like, you know what? We're gonna come back and have, sit down, have dessert, and kind of chill for the rest of the day. And we came back and we literally bought cheese sticks that are only 4 little triangles, and 2 cups of coffee and a hot chocolate. My friend paid $30 for all of that. I was like, yeah, no, I was like, I want to go home.
How big were the cheesecakes? You're like super small, like
the cheese sticks. They're those little triangle things that they're like this big, and there were 4 of them. And I was like, yeah.
30.
Yeah.
When you said 2 hot chocolates and a coffee, or
yeah, 2 hot chocolates and a coffee. That's not $30.
No, that's like
That's like at least.
That's like 12, maybe
Yeah,
13 here.
between $12 to $15. I was like, that's ridiculous.
And they would be probably bigger, you know.
Exactly, Texas sized. But yeah, I like Little Italy. Like they have a lot of, like I said, really nice buildings. You can see the One World Trade Center where the Twin Towers once stood.
Mm-hmm.
I actually got to see the memorial on the outside. They have a museum, but they're closed 2 days out of the week. So I missed it by like a day or something like that. And so definitely want to go back and do that. And then want to go back and see Broadway shows because those were completely.
So y'all were kind of like in that area where the memorial is, right?
Yeah. Well, we were like 5 blocks from Times Square.
Okay.
So we were right in the middle of everything. Well, it's Manhattan.
That's cool. Sorry, I'm filling up right now.
You pouring it up?
Yeah. Luckily, Steph's not here to be like, he's doing a little SMR. I'm like, I don't want to hear that. I don't do ASMR. I don't.
Where is she today?
She's at work. Well, she should be getting off soon, but yeah, she's at work. So we're doing, she's doing that her thing. But I heard. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was telling Daniel, that's the guy that I'm talking to. I was like, hey, listen to this podcast. I was like, it's 3 hours long, and he was like, 3 hours, and I was like, trust me. I was like, 2 out of the 4 of us were a little messed up by the time we got to the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, like Sam can't really hold her liquor. She drinks like when I used to do their episodes, she would have like 1.5 cups and already be like buzzing. And I'm like, really?
But wine's different though. Wine's different. Wine hits different.
Yeah, I know it's a different buzz. But even with, I haven't seen her like drink before, but it's like her and her friend, I don't think they can handle their liquor. Cause like I said, I've done their episodes and they're just like, ooh, and I'm like, seriously? I was like, come on, man. Even with like, it's crazy. But yeah, I don't remember. It feels like the episode wasn't 3 hours long, but like
It really was.
Well, from my side, it never feels that super long. It feels like super short, but yeah, I have to go back and listen to it again. But yeah, we had a lot of fun on that.
Yeah, we did. I went back. I went back to listen to it, and I was like, oh my god, a lot of this stuff is so funny. And it's funny because the first guy that I mentioned on there, he was like, do I really sound like a James? And I'm like, no, but I couldn't come up with any other name that would give you away. And he was like, oh.
Did anybody else listen to the episode? Did you like tell anybody else like, hey, check this episode? Did they give you like any feedback about it?
There was a couple of people that they listened and they were like, it was a really good episode. I liked it and things like that. And I was like, by all means, listen to it. You get a little bit of tea here and there. I was like, but
good. That's awesome. Yeah, that's great to hear. I like hearing feedback from other people, like, hey, it was good and this and that. So that makes me feel better knowing that I do my job right.
Yeah, you do your job right.
I've been doing this for like April would be 1.5 years. So
nice.
Yeah, so that's like I'm trying to do the best I can and moving forward and doing the stuff like that. So but you have your own podcast as well and Be Authentic. Yes, so I know you started it like last year kind of, and then you did like a small minute episode or something like that.
Yeah, I did. So it was kind of inspired just by doing this. And so December, I did like the quote unquote introduction, like you said, like that minute video or whatever episode. And then my intention was when I got back was to do the second episode, which the podcast, I want it to be like faith-based where, I talk about my faith and things like that. If people have questions about, God and things like that, I'd be able to try to answer them the best I can, bring in people who I know that are strong in their faith and, things like that. And then just talk about things in general. I feel like I wanted to make it like an open space without feeling like, oh, it's only faith-based. Like, yes, it is, but you're also allowed to talk about other things. But like I said, the beginning of the year started really rough for us as a family. my dad had to have emergency surgery at the beginning of the year. And so we were trying to figure that out. Also, change our lifestyle a little bit to make him comfortable and things like that. But luckily we're almost out of the woods with him and make things final. And then obviously school started, work picked up, and things like that. So that's why there's only been one episode. So I actually need to sit down and make time for the second one moving forward.
I mean, that's what happens. Life moves fast, and you might miss it if you stand still. Yeah. But I mean, as long as I hope your dad is doing well, it sucks when stuff like that has to happen, and just dealing with last year. I know a lot of people are just kind of like fed up with like stuff. They're like, we got to deal with COVID, and now we got to deal with other things and stuff like that. And I know COVID was like just really bad for a lot of us,
For sure. So I know we were talking about that at the church the other day. We're like, oh yeah, like we heard somebody who came back positive. It's like, and it's to us, we're so used to it. And now that the vaccine is out, we think that, it's gone. And somebody's like, yeah, like I completely forget that it's still there. She's like, because she's like, you don't hear it as often now, like people coming out positive or things like that. And I was like, yeah, because I guess our focus shifted from it starting to, oh, look, now we have a vaccine for it and things like that. Now there's a way to control it. So I feel like we're on a road of almost being out, but not quite yet.
Yeah, yeah. It's really like, I mean, as soon as the year started, I kind of got rid of all my news media outlets that I follow, like ABC, Fox News, CBS, NBC, CNN. I just got rid of it because I was just tired of hearing like all these things about COVID and these negative articles and stuff like that. So I really haven't kept up with anything. I'm just kind of like by ear hearing stuff, and with my job, they're talking about whatnot and stuff like that. And so I get my information from like other news sources, like people I follow on YouTube, and I watch their YouTube channels and stuff like that. So I get info about COVID, but as far as I know, yeah, it's kind of like dying down because people are getting vaccinated and stuff like that. But I mean, just because you get vaccinated doesn't necessarily mean that COVID is gone. Yeah, COVID is gone and you can't get it again. I think that's what people are not understanding, and they forget, like, dude, even if you get the flu shot, you still might get the flu,
Yeah, that I had a lady ask me that yesterday. She's like, so now that my daughter is vaccinated, she's like, does she have to like still wear her mask? And I was like, in Texas, legally, no. I was like, she doesn't have to. I was like, but a lot of the places that I know that, aren't obviously in agreement with what's going on, I was like, they're still mandating. She's like, no, but I mean, like, can she still catch COVID? And I was like, yeah, she can. I was like, the vaccine is just trying to protect her, but it's not. I was like, I wasn't trying to get too much into it with her. Like, I was like, no, if this is anything like the flu, the flu virus, I was like, it's going to replicate every year. So a new strand, so a new vaccine is going to have to roll out every year. So, this is protecting it from the strand last year's. But I was like, the best I can do is I could recommend you protecting yourself. If you feel comfortable with her wearing her mask all the time, let her wear her mask. If she doesn't, that's on her. I was like, but I can't tell you if she's going to have a reaction or not. I was like, because everybody's different.
Yeah, it's so funny when the governor was like, hey, I'm removing the mask mandate and opening up things to 100%. Because when that happened, like I think like 2 weeks later, me and Steph went to New Orleans for spring break. I kid you not. They still have a mask mandate, but in New Orleans, it's kind of like half of them got masks and half of them don't. And they're just like living life and being free and going to the clubs and going to the restaurants. And I'm like, you still have a mask mandate, guys. But somebody was like saying, the governor kind of relaxed it a little bit. So I think over there, they're really just chill people. So they're just like, whatever, you wear it just when you need to. If you don't want to wear it outside, that's fine. But we wore it just for safekeeping, and also because it smelled like piss over there. So I needed to cover my nose, and I'm like, oh, it's gross. literally, like, we talked about that in the episode last week when we did our New Orleans episode.
Or where you guys were laying on the bed?
Yeah, we were trying to go for like a John Lennon kind of Yoko Ono kind of like vibe, I guess.
Yeah.
And we thought it would be funny to do something like that. We didn't like lay in bed, but we were just tired. I was tired. I was like, please, we got one more day. The thing about that, the next day, so we went to eat breakfast, and by the time it was like 11 o'clock, we were just kind of like, let's just go home. You know, we done everything we could. We were here since Sunday. Let's just go home. So we left. We stopped to go to the restroom because I had to go. And then, so New Orleans is like 5.5 hours away. It took us.
Why did I think it was shorter?
It feels like it when you're going, but when you're coming back. So coming back, it literally took us like 8.5 hours to get here. Yeah. Because we stopped to go to the restroom. We stopped to eat. But there was a lot of traffic. There was a lot of accidents and stuff like that. So that prolonged us from getting home because I was like, okay, cool. I recorded this episode. All I have to do, we can get home early so I can edit it, upload it, and yeah, I'll be good to go. But like I said, we didn't get home till like 8 o'clock. So from 11 o'clock to 8 o'clock at night, I was just like, I was already tired. As soon as we got into Texas, we were just like, took the mask off, and I was like, we ain't gonna need these anymore since we're here. And then, you know, I just boogied on home. I was like, I'm tired, but I gotta go. Let's go. So it was crazy, but we had a really good time. Have you been to New Orleans before?
No, I have. Hold on, give me a second.
Go ahead.
Hold on. You want to go right? Okay. Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
He wanted to go, so.
Oh.
Okay. No, I haven't been to New Orleans yet.
You should. I think Steph is thinking about going again. You should try to like tell her, hey, let's go. You know, it's really nice. Like, aside from it smelling like piss, the culture is very, really nice. The architecture, the vibe. You know, the food is great. You can literally like take your drink and just walk in the street and just they don't say nothing. Yeah. You can we as soon as we got there, we went to this place that it's called Willie's Chicken Shack, and we literally ordered like jumbo size. It's a 32 ounce. What's it called? Like daiquiris, and we're just like, we can take these, you know, walking in the street, stuff like that. So, but yeah, it's really nice. We walked most of the time because like. You can really just walk to anywhere. You can walk to the restaurants. You can walk to Bourbon. You can walk to the French Market, the French Square. And so we walked a lot. You know, it was really nice because it wasn't hot and it wasn't super cold. It was really it was perfect weather. But yeah, it's something to do. We enjoy going like maybe once a year or maybe once every other year, but you have to go at least once. So.
You know why I thought it was so close? I have a friend that goes, an old coworker that goes a lot, and it makes it seem like it's like 3 hours away. That's maybe why I had that idea that it was so close. She's always she always drives over there.
I think some people, they drive so fast they can cut like 2.5 hours off their trip if you don't stop too. But I have to stop because you know you got to go pee and then you got to eat and then you got to. You know, fill up your gas tank because there's a certain part of the trip where it's nothing but swamp. So it's like it's I-10 and then it's just nothing but swamp for like a good 5 or 6 miles. So you have to fill up your tank before you get on that bridge. Because if you get stuck there, you're stuck there. You know, there's no U-turns. There's no nothing. You're stuck there until somebody can like bring you gas or something from like 30 minutes away.
What's your favorite part of New Orleans?
Well, we've always been in the city, like in downtown, but I enjoy kind of like the outskirts, kind of like it's the outskirts of the city. But I like the city inside the city as well because, like I said, everything's so close. It's walking distance. You can probably walk the whole city of New Orleans in like under an hour.
Really? It's that small?
It's so small, you know. It's like nothing. Like Houston is like maybe 3 or 4 times that size.
Yeah, you can never. You can walk South Houston in an hour.
Yeah.
A small portion. You know?
Literally, like, it's so small, but I mean, everything's like 5-10 minutes away walking distance. Like, one of these days we wanted to eat Chinese or Vietnamese food, so I found a restaurant and I walked to it to go get our food, and it was literally like 5 minutes walking distance from our hotel. I really got a really good deal on a hotel. We were supposed to stay close to their Superdome, but something happened, so I ended up having to cancel that booking for the hotel. And then I was like, crap, we need to find another hotel. So T-Mobile has this thing called T-Mobile Tuesdays, and they're always advertising Booking.com, and you can save up to like 40% on a hotel. So I was like,
no promo. You're not gonna pay
no promo. But yeah, I checked it up, and I was like, okay. And then I was like, Crown Royal. I was like, oh, this is like, it's literally like you walk out, take a right, take another right, you're on Bourbon Street. Yeah. Like 2 seconds. So
wow.
So I was like, this is not a bad deal. I think it was like $60 a night or something like that. We ended up paying like $587, so almost $600 for like 4 or 5 days, from Sunday to I guess Thursday night. So really not that expensive, but originally my cousin and his girlfriend were supposed to come with us, but something happened. So it was just me and Steph, and we didn't want to get an Airbnb and pay more.
The cleaning fee is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like $35, $45, and I'm like,
I saw a couple of them in San Antonio that like the cleaning fees were like $130, almost as much as to stay a night there. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm just gonna stay in a hotel.
That's what I told her. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna message these people. I'm like, hey, we're Mexican, so you don't have to like deal with the cleaning fee. I mean, we will clean it up for you. Like the guy at the desk, he was like, do you need somebody to go and clean? You know, you need room service. I'm like, dude, if you can't tell, I can clean. We're pretty clean people, so you don't have to clean, you know, for us. So the only time we did have to have the lady come is like for fresh bed sheets or stuff like that. So, but yeah, it was really nice. The other negative thing is there were so many people on Canal Street, because that's where the hotel's on. So you see all these people on the corner. There's a lot of drunks. You know, and then due to the pandemic, there's a lot of homeless people, more homeless people than last time. So they're always hanging out there, and it's a nice city, but you can get wrapped up in alcohol around there because it's everywhere, you know, and then you can drink it on the street. So that's even worse.
Yeah, definitely. I know New York is like, there's a lot of homeless people, and I was like, there was one night where we were going back to the hotel. And obviously they have the people, like for them it's more drugs than alcohol. So we were walking, and then like this man and this lady were talking, and the lady dropped something, and the man turned around to pick it up, and he had a syringe with a needle on it. Like I think he was about to stick it in there because it wasn't used yet. And I was like, ah! I was like, don't come near me because it's open. I was like, oh no. I was like, no. But yeah, I know my friend and I were looking about, you know, whenever we booked the trip, we thought about like booking an Airbnb. She's like, well, let's just get an Airbnb. It'll be cheaper. And I was like, no. It's like whenever I was looking for an Airbnb here in Houston, I was like, I was having to pay as much for the cleaning fee, like to pay for a night.
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking at Airbnbs, and I kid you, they were like studio apartments, like 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, a little small kitchen, and it was almost the same amount to stay in a hotel. And I was like, let's just stay in a hotel. Like,
yeah, that's why I stopped going to Airbnbs, because of all the fees that they have, and then the same amount that we pay for a hotel is the same one for Airbnb. So it's kind of like, and then Airbnbs don't provide you free breakfast and all that. I mean, they do give you like the homey kind of vibe because you're staying in someone's home, but I was like, nah, I'd rather get a hotel, people clean the sheets for me and stuff like that,
Did they have to tell you guys that they would only come cleaning upon request, or were they going in there like every day?
Yeah, upon request. Like they really gonna give me a form, and I was like, don't worry about it. I was like, we're clean people, we don't really make a mess and stuff like that. So we didn't really need to.
Why our room looked a mess is because it was small. It was like one of those like suite hotels,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a 1 bedroom, and then I got the sofa bed. So I wasn't putting the sofa back in there because obviously I was like, I'm gonna come back and lay in it. But yeah, we had to do ours upon request too.
Oh,
So,
okay.
and I was like, the ladies probably think that we're like super messy. I was like, but no, like we had to carry. My friend brought two luggages, so it was like 4 luggages with her and her sister, and I just brought 1 huge luggage because it was just me and my carry-on. But I was like, these ladies probably think we're messy, and we're not. We're really not.
It's like that too. Like for me, I have 1 duffel bag, which is nothing but my clothes, but I have my equipment too. So I have my where my roadcaster goes in the little case, and then I have my backpack with all my microphones and wires and stuff like that. So I really carry light when I go out of town, but since now I have a podcast and I like taking it with me and stuff like that, it's a little bit more baggage. But I try to keep clean when I'm in a hotel because I have all my stuff here and have all my stuff there. Steph is kind of the opposite, but I mean that's just how it is. It's like
it's a balance. So you balance each other out in a relationship. It's fine.
But yeah, I mean we had a really good time. Like I said, should tell Steph like, hey, let's go to New Orleans because she wants to go again. So I'm like, it would be cool for her to go, and then maybe like you go check it out. Like I said, you really love the food. We tried literally everything in New Orleans. We had Italian. We had, the cuisine there. Like she had some kind of like salad. I don't know. She had like a pasta. I had a po' boy. We had pizza on bourbon. We had chicken. We had Chinese. We had fast food. And just we tried everything, and it's really fun. It's really fun.
Yeah, I know. People who have gone, I know they're like, oh yeah, it's really good. It's really cool to go and check it out. They do like the touristy stuff, bourbon, and so I was like, oh, maybe one day I'll get to check it out. But I think like my next trip for sure, I'm looking into going to LA.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's definitely on my to-do list. So the girl that I traveled with, I was like, let's definitely book our LA trip. So my brother and my sister want to go this time. So we'll see. Probably like the summer after they get out of school, because I wanted to do it in May.
Mm-hmm.
In May, my mom was like, well, if they want to go, you have to wait. And I was like, oh, how about they don't go?
That's my goal too, to go to LA. So I've been wanting to go to LA since I was like 18. So when I graduated, I had like this fantasy of like, oh, I want to go to LA and I want to stay there and check it out, and then maybe move there and just have like all these young aspirations when you're like 18 years old.
Right.
And then when I got older, I'm like, nah, I'm cool here, But now with this whole podcast thing, I started making friends out there in LA, podcasters. So they live out on the outskirts of LA. And then I met some people in San Diego and stuff like that. So they're always telling me, yeah, LA's nice, you should come visit. And I was like, I'm thinking about coming in the summer. So that's my goal is to go over there for the summer, hang out with them, check out the scenery. But I'm waiting till the summer because hopefully by then their guidelines and CDC stuff like that will open, and they'll have more capacity, and you don't have to they probably will require a mask, but like they'll just be less strict. So I'm really hoping on that hopefully for the summer so I can go.
I was going to book literally my flights a month ago because they were about $100 for May and June, and then I checked the prices again and they spiked right back up, and I was like, dang it, why did I wait?
Yeah, with me, I think I know where there's this website that I check out. I have it saved, even though I've never been on a plane before. I have it saved to where it's you can do like, what's it called, payment plans on the price. Yeah, I think it's called like Cheap Air, but it's not like you get like the cheap airlines. You get like
is it Cheap O Air or just Cheap Air?
I think it's like Cheap Air. I forgot what it was called. I think I'll send you the link, but you know, you can get like United, you can get all the other airlines and stuff like that, and then you can like pay payment plans. So if you're doing like a what's it called, back and forth, I forgot what that's called, and it's like 3 something, yeah, and then you can pay payment plans like ahead of time on that. So
I'm gonna have to check that out because, like I said, my brother and my sister want to go, and I don't mind paying the higher prices just for me, but I'm like, y'all got airplane ticket money or what?
They're like, we got the stimulus. I think that's good enough.
Well, no, the stimulus. See, my sister's only 14, so it's not her stimulus. It's my parents' stimulus.
She's like, where's my money?
Yeah, I know. It's like, can you use that stimmy money for my airplane?
It's like, I need money for hot Cheetos. Can I have it, please? You know.
The only reason, honestly, too, like, whenever I went to New York, I went to Brooklyn to New York, so I was like, oh yeah, I can't miss this opportunity to play No Sleep Till Brooklyn. Like as soon as I landed, I started singing No Sleep Till Brooklyn. My friend's like, what's that? And I was like, oh no. I was like, we're about to play it.
So y'all might have to like go back home, because if they hear you like, what is that? They might kick y'all butts, you know.
So whenever I go to LA, I'm gonna play the Miley Cyrus song, the USA song.
Okay.
Because she says, hopped off the plane at LAX with my dream, my cardigan. And I'm like, let's go.
They're probably like, please don't play that song. We've already heard this like so many times since like 2010. Please just stop.
It's like, well, it's not my fault. She made the song.
But yeah, I'm really like excited to go because, like I said, I'm making friends over there. You know, they're giving me all the recommendations for like the hot food places to go to. I have another friend, he goes to like breweries and stuff like that, so he knows to hook up on all these cool places to go and drink. One of the podcasts that lives in San Diego, the guy, he has his own brewery as well.
What?
So yeah, it's called 3 Punk Ale, and they just like punk music and stuff like that. So they have like all kinds of like different beers named of different bands and stuff like that. But their podcast is really cool. You know, it's a lot of Chicano, Latino stuff. So, but they're really interesting. But he was like, hey man, if you're ever in the San Diego area, come visit. And I was like, you know what? San Diego is only like 2 hours away. That's compared, like, it's like nothing to them apparently. But I was like,
to us either.
Yeah, I mean, because I did an episode. Well, I recorded an episode with one of the guys I was telling you about, and he was like, he's like, how big is Texas? Because he's never went inside of LA. I was like, dude, you know, from LA to San Diego is like 2 hours, right? He's like, yeah. I was like, dude, you can drive 2 hours in Texas and still be in Texas. I was like, you can drive 8 hours in Texas and still be in Texas. He was like, that's insane. I was like, yeah, it is. I was like, you literally have to like take a whole day to get out of here.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, especially like if you live obviously further south and you're trying to go up further north, it's gonna take a long day to get out of here. Yeah,
and then you gotta pass all that. So I was like, yeah, dude, it's crazy because he is actually thinking of coming here to visit. His dad lives here, and then he knows a bunch of Texas podcasters, so he wants to do like this traveling show and go from like city to city and meet up with all these people and do an episode. So I told him if he ever comes to Houston, I was like, hey man, let me know. I'll be your tour guide. I'll take you to all the cool places, take you all the good food. We'll go and check out all the night, you know. So I'm gonna help set him up everything, you know.
Yeah, be a good host.
Exactly. Because like I said, in LA, they have their stuff, but not really. And like over Texas, I'm like, dude, everything's 100%. It's like, we're good to go. You can go to everything.
You don't have to wear your mask.
No, exactly. It's like people might look at you different, but you're like, I'm from LA. Just don't worry about it. It's like, just let them experience it.
The guy that I'm talking to, he's from LA too, but he said he's like, I grew up here. He's like, I moved here when I was 10.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I want to go back and visit. He's like, but if I go back and visit, he's like, because I still have family over there. He's like, I feel like I'm gonna want to stay. And I was like, excuse you?
Yeah, it's like that. I know some people who are like, they're from LA, then they came here, but when they go and visit, they miss it so much. And I'm like, but Texas is cool though.
Yeah, like I was singing one of the songs. It was the state song, and I was like, "But does your state have its own songs though?" And he was like, "No, but we have our teams." And I was like, whatever."
I didn't really care for it. But yeah, I want to go. There's this place. It's called King Taco. So it's not like a taqueria or anything like that, but it's kind of like a taqueria. What we know as a taqueria is different than their taqueria. So you go in and they have like their menu and they have like tacos, they have nachos, but like their nachos are totally different than our nachos. You know, we have like the square nacho, the triangle nachos, and you have the queso and we dress it up, whatever. They have like the circle chips, the round ones, and they have like the queso cheese. And instead of like cooking like fajita or chicken, it's like the cubes of like steak, and I'm like, that's not appealing. But if you say it's good, you say it's good. So I don't know.
They cut it up in squares versus like.
Yeah, instead of like cutting, you know how we do it here. And I was like,
isn't it so weird? Like I feel like depending like the region, it's different. Like even though it's the same food, they style it different. Like on the east side, they say they have barbecue, but their barbecue, our definition of barbecue is different than theirs. And it's like, yeah, I'm not gonna go up north to eat barbecue when we know barbecue is better down south. There was a barbecue place actually up there in New York that literally had a line out. It was a long line out the door, and I was like how good is it? Because
I think I know what you're talking about. There's these guys, I think they're from Texas. They have a barbecue place up there in New York. I don't know if it's in New York City. It might be somewhere around there, but it's Texas style barbecue in New York, and I think that's probably why, you know, because they don't got it.
I think it's called like Dallas barbecue or something like that.
That's probably what it is. I remember seeing it a long time ago, but I thought the same thing too. I was like, barbecue in New York, but yeah, they don't have anything. Like they just have pizza and hot dogs and everything else that's in their little vicinity. You know, like Italian, Korean, Vietnamese, Chinese, Middle Eastern food. They got all that, but it's like when it comes to like Texas food, it's foreign to them.
Yeah, and I was like, what barbecue? I was like, And then I tried to check out the ratings, and the ratings weren't that good. And I was like, then why is there a line out the door?
I guess to them, it's like they don't know. If they were to come here, they would be like,
they would be mind blown.
Exactly.
Mind blown. So different.
Yeah, like I said, like you're saying, like the areas of like food, it's like that in LA. From what I hear, like even different like around LA, different parts of the like city, like they have like outskirts, like little towns outside of LA. Their food is different from other little towns too. It's like you can have this type of taco here, and then if you go maybe north of LA, their tacos are different. And I was like, that's really weird.
Yeah, I know. And it's like here too, like, you know, our tacos are different. Like you go to certain areas in town and they dress them all nice and pretty, super expensive. You come to Edgebrook, you have like tens of thousands of, you know, taco trucks, and you're going to find them for $1, and they're just as good.
Yeah, and just as super greasy, but they're so good.
I love tacos. I see friends that like post pictures of tacos, and I'm like, where is this at? Like, you guys are always finding the perfect spots.
Yeah, I said that too. There's this Instagram page that follows me. It's from Houston, and I think it's a white guy. I'm not sure, but he goes to all these recommended taco places, and he tries them out, and he gives them ratings and stuff like that. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. It's funny because was it a couple months ago? I told Steph, I was like, I'm surprised there's no like app for like finding taco trucks, because there's so many, but you don't. Me personally, I don't want to go to a truck, order something, and it's not good, and then I waste money there. So I would feel like that'd be cool if you can like track one down, see what they got, what are their ratings. I know it's kind of like Yelp, but it's like for taco trucks, and then just
I was gonna say it's a Yelp, but they should make like their own little tab of taco trucks, or somebody should just develop a taco truck app and get explore all the tacos around the area and make money off of making that app. You should do it. See,
that would be really cool. I would have to like figure that out, but that'd be pretty cool to do something like that. Like I said, there's so many trucks, and then you're like, where are the trucks in my area? Because where I work at, it's kind of ghetto, but they barely have like one taco truck, and it's kind of like, I think it's like Jalisco style, like tacos or chicken or something like that. I haven't tried it yet, but I know they only take cash. So, but it's cool, like these areas that don't necessarily have a lot of Latinos, they're starting to have like taco trucks because a lot of them work in that area. So, but yeah, I would like to come up with that, or like give that idea and then like sell it to somebody.
Be like, oh, here's my idea, and they'll pay me $1 million.
Hey, you could do that. That'd be cool. But yeah, what's it? So, when are you gonna do another episode of your podcast?
Let's see. I feel like I have right now, like my life is kind of taking a run. Like these past 2 weeks have been so busy for me, and I'm like, dang, like I really need to sit down and actually do it. If I have time tomorrow, which it might look like, because the only thing I have to do is take out my friend's dog tomorrow, and I have a little girl's time, and I'm like, look, I'm watching my mother's kids, so I can't be out for too long. But hopefully, maybe tomorrow when I have some downtime.
Do you have like an idea of like what you want to talk about for that, or is it
so
just
the second one? I was thinking more of like my testimony as to how I came to Christ. Like I said, it's faith-based, so it's just like how I grew up and how that has changed my life from growing up in a Christian home to not going to going back, and then life now. But definitely, it's what the second episode was gonna be.
That's interesting. I kind of wanted to do something like that on this podcast because I'm also a Christian myself, and I was like, I don't know, would anybody want to hear that, especially with like all the stuff that I have on here? People are like, you sure? People, how people judge, but I've done that too. I mean, I've grown up in a Christian home my whole life. My grandparents go to church. My all my tios and my cousins, we've all gone to church. There's times where we've gone and then we've not gone, and then we've gone again and move out again and then go to another one, and then and then me as an adult, I stopped going for like a year. And I found one church, and it was cool, but there was some stuff that was kind of going on that I didn't necessarily like. And then one of I guess the deacons had said something to me about my lifestyle, because he was like, I don't really necessarily like the idea that you and your girlfriend are, you're not married, but you're still doing that. And I was like, okay, that's none of your business, but it's not like I'm doing anything. I mean, I understand what it says in the Bible. I completely agree, but we both are safe about it and this and that. But I'm like, how most of those people at church are. They're just want to stick their nose up in things and be nosy and and then start talking. So I left, and then at that time, my cousin's a pastor, so he was starting his own church and this and that. So I had got out of church, I think for like another year, I think at that point. And I didn't start going until my grandmother passed away. So, it was kind of like, oh, okay, my cousin has a church, I'll go, whatever. I was kind of like enjoying not going. But I just kind of like stuck around. So now I'm like integrated into everything. I'm the Sunday school teacher. I'm the music leader. Yeah, I'm the, I guess one of the board members. I'm the person that works the audio machine, the audio back there. We do live videos too, so I go and turn on and turn off the camera. I do a lot of stuff. It's a really small church. And my family goes and stuff like that, but we don't have that many members because some members leave and then some members just stop going, and then during COVID it was just horrible because people don't want to go because I don't want to get sick and this and blah 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 blah. So it was kind of really hurting. It really hurt us a lot, but it helped us a little bit more, trying to feel like we got closer together and just we're doing more stuff, trying to get more people to come in to church and stuff like that, because it's in the Heights, and in the Heights people do their own thing, and
right.
They're not really worried about going to church on Sundays and stuff like that. They go to their breweries, they go to brunch with their friends, they go do this and that. There are some churches.
Like a bar scene in that area.
Yeah, there is. It's literally like on the other side on 16th Street, Eureka Brewery's on that side. So there's that, and then there's so many things in the area that did distract people. So
right.
It's kind of hard for us.
No, yeah, that's how. So what I do, I have a home church. Because my home church is small too, and it doesn't really cater to people our age. It's like either you're old and you're married, or you're really young. So or you have your high schoolers, and I'm like, well, I don't,
I have that same problem. I'm literally like the only person my age.
Yeah, me too. Like besides my cousins, they're my age, and they don't really have a class for us anymore. So I feel like it was hurting me more than anything. So I was watching like this Christian YouTuber. She's really cool and everything. She's from Texas. And so she mentioned this young adults ministry called The Porch. And I looked into it, and I downloaded the app, checked it out a couple of messages. And I was like, oh my God, these are really good messages, because it's aimed towards people our age, like what we're going through at that time and things like that. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So I remember looking up because it's locations. I was like, oh, I thought this was based off of Dallas. And then I saw that they had a location, here in Houston. And I was like, oh, okay. So let me, take a day and go check it out. It's on Tuesday nights. I went and I fell in love with it. Everybody was really friendly and things like that. And I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to keep coming. That was in 2017, obviously. Life hit Harvey, work, and all that stuff. So I stopped going, and I was like, you know what? I was like, I enjoyed being there and all that stuff. So I went back at the beginning of 2018, and then I started to serve with them. So I started to volunteer, got integrated in a Life Bible study group with people my age and things like that. So it's been really cool, kind of seeing my faith grow and walk along people who are going through the same things we are, and knowing that we're not alone in that, because I love my church and everything. It's like you said, I was a Sunday school teacher. I'm part of the praise and worship team there. My dad is part of the audio. Right now he's not, obviously, because he's recovering, but he's part of the audio. My brother recently took over for my dad. He has help and things like that. And my mom is part of the greeting team. She's the main person for them. So right now, I think my worship leaders are taking a step down just because they're going through some stuff in their personal lives, which is understandable. And so that would just leave my cousin and I. My cousin's the drummer. And I'm like, well, we need a guitar player. We want to continue. But the guy that I am dating right now, actually, he's what I like about him, the aspect that attracted me mostly about him was that he was already in the church. He was already growing up, he's grown up in church, been, he recently got back whenever he moved back to Houston and things like that. And I'm like, okay, I was like, all right, let's do this. And, he goes to church with me. He's been going to church with me. And so, but yeah, that's what I want to base it on. It's like you said, don't be afraid to tell your testimony just because you're afraid of what people are going to say, because easily you telling somebody your testimony with the viewers that you have, you can reach somebody out there that probably needs it. You never know. You're going to plant that seed in somebody's heart. You might not see it grow. You may never see it grow, because it's like you have people from different places, but they're going to be like, oh, I was listening to this guy's podcast and, it doesn't match the style that he has, but he gave his testimony that day. I heard it, or, and that reached out to me. And so because of that, I started going to church. It's the same thing I told Steph one day. She was like, oh, like, I want to post my progress pictures, but I don't. I was like, do it. I was like, do it, because you don't know who you're going to impact.
Yeah.
I was like, you may make a difference to somebody who's struggling. They're like, oh, like, I saw her pictures. I saw her progress. Like, that pushed me moving forward. Like, it's not you showing off. It's you feeling good about yourself and knowing that you made all this progress alone. It's just like, you know what? Yes, I'm going to post. And I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, you kind of have to like you have to like convince her and push her to do it, but telling her, hey, like, it's a good idea. Like with her vlog, I've always told her for years, I was like, you need to have like a hobby. You need to do something. You don't have anything to do. As for me, I got video games. I play music. I had a band and stuff like that. So that was my hobby. She didn't have anything really. Her only hobby was like going out. So I was like, you got to do something productive. So I kept telling her that, and I was like, start a podcast or start a vlog. So she took that, and her vlog she's got a lot of followers. She's getting people sending her stuff and stuff like that. So it's really good. I'm really happy for her, and I'm proud of her that she's doing something. And it's kind of cool. It's like a podcaster and a vlogger, kind of relationship thing that we got going on. So it's like, it's a dynamic duo. Like, she works with me and I work with her and stuff like that. So it works out.
That's really cool. Yeah, it works out just fine. Like I said, he plays the guitar. So I'm like,
yeah.
But right now it's because we're still in that getting to know each other phase and things like that. Like I don't want to bring him to my home church quite yet, because it's small and those people have seen me grow up, and they're going to, typical Hispanics, they're going to ask tens of thousands of questions.
I totally know.
And I'm like, wait, time out. Like, I'm bringing this guy, like, one time we're not getting married. We're not walking down the aisle yet. Like, but once he already feels comfortable. So I'm like, all right, cool. Like, I'll take you one day to my home church. But it's for sure. Like, I was just telling him, because we've had hard conversations about things. And I was like, maybe, I feel like relationships are meant to balance each other out. Like, let's say, for example, like, one thing that I don't have is patience. I've learned over the years to be patient, but I don't have the patience that he has. For me, relationships have always worked super fast. Like first, second date, or like on the second date, we're already talking about like, all right, like I like where this is going. Let's make it official. All right, cool.
Yeah.
And he was, yeah, you can't be that way. He was like, because things don't end well. And I'm like,
that's the same thing I've said. And I've told people that, I've had friends who've dated people, and they're like, I'm already, I have a friend of mine, his name's Dobie. And he's always said he didn't want to date just to date, that he wanted to date to marry. And I'm like, hold on, time out. Check this out. I was like, you have to get to know somebody first. I've known Steph. We've been dating for 7 years. So I've known her inside and out. We know everything. With him, he has this fantasy in his head. He loves his parents, and he admires their love story. His dad's a missionary kid. His grandparents were missionaries to Argentina or Chile. I forgot where it was. So he grew up there. When he came back and he got older, he started serving in this church, and then he met the lady who would be his wife, but they only met for 1 day, and he was like, yeah, I'm gonna marry you. And he took with that and ran. But they've been married for so long, and they have a great relationship. So I'm like, it does work out for some people, but I'm like, dude, you can't, it's different than it was 40 years ago in the 80s. It's 2020. Things are different. You have to get to know somebody, because people are crazy.
exactly.
So, and I've been with him when he's liked a lot of girls. And one time, I think this one girl lived in Louisiana, and he was like, I'm going to go visit her. And I'm like, what? No. I was like, dude, that's crazy. And, you know, it never worked out, but he got engaged recently, and I was like, I told him, I was like, how long have you been knowing this girl? He's like, oh, for like a year and a half. And I was like, and you already proposed to her? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, me being like, I'm like, do you really know her? Do you know what she likes? Do you know what pisses her off? Does she fart around you know, is she a farter? Is she, does she like,
Disclaimer, girls do poop.
you know, it like, do you know small things about people? Because like I said, I know other people who've jumped into relationships and jumped into marriages that quick, you know, and they never end up working, you know. Right. And it, you know, I hate seeing that because it's like, these are my friends, and it's like, I try to tell them, like, dude, you got to get to know this person first. I understand you want to get married, but, you know, what is the goal for marriage for you? Is it just to be like, okay, I'm married, you know, or is it to like have a partner? Because like I said, marriage is a huge step for people. Okay. And, you know, marriages, people get married and divorced faster than people's underwear. You know, they change all the time. And it's like, for me, I got to get to know the person. It's a long time. It's 7 years. I know some people are waiting. My cousin's been dating his girlfriend for like 9 years. But, you know, sometimes you're like, okay, is this the person? Do we need to we have talked about this? Do we need to make this move? What do we need to do? You know, so you get to know this person. She get to know me. I got to know her. But I get what you're saying. Like it's patience, you know, because you've done with that with relationships. But, you know, God's always going to put somebody in your life that's going to counterbalance that and like, hey, look, this is something you need to work on. You know, it's always the one thing that you need working on, that you find somebody that helps you work on that.
Exactly. Yeah. And I've noticed that a lot in like different marriages that I've been around and things like that. Like they balance each other out in things where they're not good at. Like I know my parents, they dated for about a year before my dad proposed. Mm-hmm. And, like 2 weeks later, they got married. And I was like, dang, I was like, what were y'all in a hurry for? You know, but it worked for them. It doesn't work for everybody. You know, they're coming up on their 20-year anniversary, and which is great. And I feel like I've seen people in the church where it's like, oh, we've been dating for a year, but we know, I mean, not a year, a month. I've heard of a crazy story when I first started going there. It's like they were dating for like a month and a half or two, and they got engaged and then they got married. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, why? That's so quick. Like I'm like your friend, like I said, like I'm not dating just to date. I'm dating with the sole purpose of getting married. Yeah. And that's something that I completely disclosed to him. And I'm like, hey, like, I'm not here to play games. I'm not here to waste your time. I was like, I'm not getting any younger, obviously. I was like, and he was like, well, yeah, I'm not. He's 3 years older than I am. He's like, I'm not young either. He was like, so, and I was like, all right. And I was like, just know this is where I stand. You know, I'm not here to play games. He's like, yeah, me either. I was like, all right, cool. Yeah. So you understand that. And that that's why he tells me, he's like, I have to get to know you better. And, you know, because he's like, I don't know what makes you mad. He's like, we're only like, he's like, so far, he's like, I like what I see. He's like, I like your personality. He's like, but I don't know what makes you mad. And I'm like, you know, a lot of things make me mad, but one thing is showing them and then, you know, or expressing them. I was like, I'm very more of an internal thing. And I would just put on like a smiley face and move on. I was like, unless it really makes me mad. Yeah. You know, that's a big difference. But yeah, it's balance and making it work and things like that. Some people date for years. Some people don't. I'm like, look, whatever. I told him, I was like, I don't want a long relationship. Like, I was like, to me, he's like, well, what's a long relationship to you? And I was like, at this time, I was like, I don't want more than 2 years. He was like, oh no. He's like, I feel like that's too long for me. Like, all right, cool. I mean, maybe that's what you want, you know? And I've heard people where they made plans and they followed through and now they're heartbroken. And I'm like, oh my God, like it sucks seeing that, you know, but it's like, all right, you know, like let's, you know, if you need to cry it out, but pick yourself back up, you know, if it's meant to be, it's gonna come together. If it's not, then you're allowed to heal and move on.
Yeah. It's a funny thing, you know, like with me and Steph, like we've discussed, like, you know, oh, would you date anybody else after me? And I told her, I'm like, I don't know. It's like to a point where I think if we were to break up, like for reals, I would just focus on myself. I probably would talk to people, but it wouldn't really be serious.
Right.
And, you know, and I'm like I said, we're not getting any younger. I'm going to be 28. We're both going to be 28. And it's kind of like, I don't want to find somebody and be like married at like 35. And, you know, I don't want to do another 7-year relationship. I kind of want to like do this. But it's always different for different people. Like you said, there's some people that get married within like a month. I've known people like that. And I'm like, bro, what? And you know, their relationship works and they've been married for quite some time. But it's like, it's crazy for some people. I guess some people just know, but others are just like, I gotta keep looking at the menu. I mean,
Yeah,
you know, I'll let you know when I'm ready.
I don't just want chicken tenders all the time, okay?
Yeah. You know, I kind of want, you know, maybe I want a burger. Maybe I want like fried rice or something, you know.
Maybe some little spaghetti.
You never know, you know. But yeah, it's interesting with stuff like that, you know.
I know. Dating is so weird, especially like you said in this day and age. Like people are crazy and all this stuff. Like, you know, and not only that, like people are hurt. They don't heal properly, and so they bring stuff in, and you're just like you know, in the previous episode that I was on, like that guy was carrying things that I was like, why are you comparing me to that person, like to your past relationships? Like I'm not them. And that's what that's why I tell him, like, I'm like, it's not fair to compare each other to past relationships. I was like, we have to give each other a shot. I was like, because, you know, we learn from those mistakes, but I mean, obviously at the same time, you guard your heart and things like that. I was like, you just have to be careful. But it's not fair to like, oh, because this person did it to me, the next person that's going to come is going to do the same thing. I was like, because if you have that mentality, then you're never going to go anywhere with anyone. And he's like, no, yeah. He's like, I just want to get to know you more. He's like, don't freak out. And I was like, look, I don't need you to, you know, go be entertaining other people. And he was like, I'm not. But are you really going to see your phone?
I mean, I used to be like that. I used to kind of like tell stuff like, oh, I've been hurt. And, you know, but as I got older, I'm like, well, that's not fair. And I'm like, I need to stop being such a baby and stop reflecting on the past. I'm like, that whatever happened in high school, you know, that's old. You know, when I got out of high school, I was totally different. I did things and I grew up and I just was like, I can't be reflecting on, you know, the dream girl high school that I had liked, and I had like these, you know, I was gonna marry. I can't reflect on that anymore. It's like I have to focus on my relationship now, you know, because sometimes, you know, I'm gonna admit this. Sometimes I'm not very romantic. Sometimes I'm just like, yeah, okay, sure. You know, she wants to go have a nice romantic dinner, and I'm just like, okay, whatever. You know, that's just me. And I guess she would get upset because she's like, you know, you kind of spent all that time being romantic to other people that didn't really necessarily care about you. And I was like, yeah, I know, I totally understand that, but I think getting older, it's kind of like, I'm just not like that person, you know. And it varied with different people, but I think just the point of like, yeah, I can be romantic, but it's like a one hitter. It's kind of like, okay, I'm romantic, and then it's like, okay, give me like some months and I'll be,
I think,
you know.
this, like what I found out too, we have to know each other's love languages. Like mine is personal, like quality time. And because I don't know if you heard, but there's like 5 love languages. It's gifts giving, receiving, serving, which is act of kindness, physical touch, and quality time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm the quality time person. Like I have to have time with you, and I'm the gift giver. So if my person likes something, or I know that they like something, like I'll go find something small and I'll want to go make them happy. And like, for example, he had a surgery too. So I was like, well, what are your favorite snacks? And then he's like, oh, this and this. And I was like, all right, come outside your house. And he was like, oh, okay, thank you. And I was like, all right, cool. You know, and it's just like little acts of service like that. And but it's like knowing each other's love languages in order to know, hey, like, how can I better serve my significant other? You know, I may not be good at that, but I know that they're gonna, maybe her love language is, you know, being with you, like personal quality.
She's like 3 out of 5 or 4 out of 5 or all 5. I don't know.
She's all 5.
Yeah, she's most likely all 5.
But for me, it's definitely quality time. Like if you take me to a cheap, hey, let's go get some hot and spices from McDonald's. Let's go hang out at the park for an hour or two. All right, cool. Let's go do it. You know, or hey, let's stay in, watch a movie. That's even better. Like you don't have to spend time. You don't have to spend your money on me. And that's what I told him. I'm like, hey, I'm the most low maintenance person you're gonna meet. Like if you tell me let's go sit at the park and hang out, that's fine. If you tell me, hey, like I just let's go get some hot and spices, that's cool. I was like, and I'm gonna be happy. That's just like. But I think it's knowing each other, like, well, what does she like the most to do, or what does he like to do? You know, that makes him happy. And he's a quality time person too, so that's why he's like, oh, so what are we gonna do next? And I'm like, I don't know, you tell me.
Yeah, you know, Steph's the same way. You know, like I know she likes going out, and sometimes I just don't feel like going. You know, that's just me. And most of the time it's during the week, so it's like. You know, she goes out on Thursdays. She goes out on Fridays. She goes out on Saturdays. Sometimes she goes out on Tuesdays. Sometimes she goes out on Wednesdays. And it's like, it got to a point where she would be upset because I wouldn't go. But I think we've kind of started like noticing, okay, well, he's not kind of, he kind of wants to go when he wants to, which, you know, sorry, but that's fine. You know, I tell her like, go enjoy yourself, go have fun, whatever, you know, don't worry about me. I'm fine staying at home. Mm-hmm. You know, most of the time when I don't have any friends to hang out with, I'm just at home, or I'm doing my podcast, or I'm watching a movie, playing video games, listening to music, you know, or sometimes I'll just go up by myself. But she understands like, hey, you know, she has her time to herself and I have my time to myself, because, you know, for a while, you know, she always wanted to hang out, and I'm like, I need space. I need, you know, and she would get sometimes like sad because she think I didn't want to be around. And I was like, no, I just need space. That's me. I'm not saying I don't want to be around you. I just need space. I like being by myself. I've been by myself my whole life. I've always done things by myself. I used to go to the movies. I used to go to concerts. I used to go and do things by myself. So I'm used to that. And, you know, I've been with her, but it's kind of like, you kind of let me do what I want to do sometimes, you know, like let me just be by myself and do this. So she understands that now. Like I said, once we were more in our relationship, we started understanding, okay, he likes doing this, she likes doing this and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah, I did definitely, like, I mean, just because like maybe these are things that I've planned before, but he'll ask, he'll be considerate, and he's like, oh, like, he's like, you have this to do with your friends today, right? And I'm like, yeah. So it's like still spending time apart, but not too much time together. Like he literally lives like 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes. There's a park, and that's the only thing that separates us. And it's like, we don't see each other, you know, but maybe, like I said, he goes to church with me. So I see him Tuesdays now, and then we'll plan something like, oh, like I have this day off, you know, let's hang out. All right, cool. And then I'll see him again on Sunday, whenever he goes in the afternoon with me. But it's like, we still spend our time apart. Maybe that'll change once, you know, if we're together, but it's like, it's like, what do I do at this point? Do I feed it to make it happy?
Yeah. I mean, that's understandable. Like I said, we went through that, but now our relationship is a little bit more matured and stuff like that. You know, sometimes maybe I'll see her, how long have this week, I didn't see her Sunday. I didn't see her Monday. I think I saw her Thursday, Wednesday.
Yesterday?
No, it wasn't yesterday. I think it was Wednesday. It might have been Wednesday. It might have been Thursday. I forgot. But, you know, sometimes she'll come over and see me, or sometimes I'll go over. No, yeah, Wednesday. I saw her Wednesday, and then she came over Thursday, and then I'll see her tomorrow at church for our Easter egg hunt that we got going on, and then she'll come to church with me on Sundays. That's if she wakes up on time, but we see each other maybe like 2-3 times a week, opposed to she wanted to see me almost like every day. But I'm like, we got to give each other space, because if we're all up in each other's business, things happen, arguments happen, and then that's when the bickering and the fighting and stuff like that starts. And then you start, like, some people, they get closer, they spend more time, but then they feel apart. I've felt that before, where it's like, I feel like I'm here, but I'm like, I'm not here. And we talked about stuff like that, but like I said, we give each other our space now, and it's fine. It's like, okay, I'm going out. Okay, just let me know when you get home. Or, hey, I'm going over here and doing this. Okay, just text me and stuff like that. So, but once after time, it gets like that.
Yeah, I know. For me, I guess now, because I'm older and I haven't been in a real relationship in almost 10 years, I'm like, I don't mind not seeing them every day. Like you said, like maybe 3 times a week, 2 times a week. It just all depends, just because, like, right now, because he's not working for the next couple of weeks, it's easier for him, to have time available.
Yeah.
It's me, he's having to work around my schedule. Now that's going to change, obviously, once he goes back to work and things like that. So it's like, okay, let's spend as much time together right now that we can, versus, when he goes back to work, it's going to look different. Then I'm going to be like, well, you had time for me then. But I'm also trying to separate that so it won't change too much when, that gets involved.
Yeah, I totally understand that. So, what else can we talk about? So since we were talking about church and stuff like that, it's funny because last month, during the freeze, before the freeze, there was this podcast who has been talking about this pastor who lives in the suburbs of LA, like on the outskirts of LA. And he's had a lot of controversy because of the way he preaches. I think in the city that he lives in, there's a huge there's a huge LGBTQIA plus, I think, whatever it's called, presence in that city. And he's against it, but like, I've seen videos and stuff like that. Like, this preaching kind of, it's a lot to digest, because there's certain words, trigger words that he uses that I've never heard somebody speak in church. So when I would watch his videos or check out some of the stuff, I'm like, whoa, that's a lot. It's like a baby trying to eat a steak. It's a lot for them. They can do it. They munch on it as much as they can, but it's a lot. So, but this podcast continuously was like talking trash about this pastor. And then they threw a bomb into the church, and it messed up, and they graffitied the building. So they ended up having to move out of there due to safety reasons. And during this whole time, the city was gathering signatures, I guess, to kick him out of the city. And they needed like 10,000 or something like that. And he publicly went like on air, and he's like, come on, give me 20,000. Like, if you can get 20,000, give it to me 30. He's like, see how many signatures you can get. But he's just like egging them on. So anyways, he moves out, and this guy is like, oh, finally, the hateful pastor is gone. And people are like, I was, doing seances and whatever, I guess, to help, whatever, some stupid stuff. So I asked this guy, I was like, why do you hate this guy so much? And he was like, I'm agnostic, and I don't necessarily care about religion or religious people, but this guy is spewing hate speech and this and that. And I was like, okay. I said, I get that you don't necessarily agree with the message that he says, and yes, I can agree that some of the stuff he does say is kind of a lot to digest. But have you ever like sat down and listened to like a full sermon of his? And the guy was like, no, I think it was a guy. I'm not sure if it was a guy or girl, but he's like, no. So I was like, okay. I was like, well, I have, and I feel like the clips that you see is not necessarily what kind of person he is. But it's funny because he had tagged the pastor's Instagram and the church's Instagram. So while we're having this conversation going back and forth late at night, you know, and they're 2 hours ahead, 2 hours behind us. At 11 o'clock, it's like 9 o'clock over there. So we're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then the pastor responds during our conversation. And I was like, oh, I was like, oh crap, he messaged. He responded. So they started going at it. Not like they were just talking and stuff like that. And the guy was like, well, I want to have you on my show, but I feel like if I had you on my show, you would just be kind of stubborn and blah, 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 blah. And while they're talking, I messaged him and I'm like, hey, you know, I'm a podcaster. I have a podcast and this and that. I was like, I would like to have you on my show. You know, I've been following you and I think that I would like to see your point of view on these things, but also like get to know you and this and that. You know, it's like I'm a Christian myself, and you know, and as one Christian to another, it's like, hey, let's fellowship, let's talk and this and that. And he's like, cool. So fast forward like next week or 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks later, the freeze happens. So I was like, crap, I can't do this because he was supposed to come to Houston, not to record.
Oh, did he have it planned to come to Houston?
Yeah, he had it planned already. He was supposed to be preaching at some church in the Southwest area. So he invited me to go. And I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, you know, not us thinking that the freeze was going to be that horrible. Right. I didn't get to go, but I messaged him and I'm like, hey, can we reschedule? And he's like, yeah, that's fine. So long story short, we've been going back and forth talking. So I'm supposed to have him on Monday. But the church that he does, I forget what it's called. Let me look it up again. I've been messaging all these other people and stuff like that. His name is Bruce Mejia, and his church is... What's the name of your church, bro? First Works Baptist Church. And, like, you can go on their Instagram, and they have... I don't know who clips his audio... his video, but he says some pretty like strong stuff, and I'm like, what did you like? He had said something about women. He was like, women are weak, women in the workplace, they shouldn't work at all because of the temptations that are at work. You know, he's like, in this day and age, women are most likely to cheat and then do this and that. And I was like, it goes both ways, brother. You know, but it's like, I get what you're trying to say, but that's just not the right way to say it. And, but yeah, I'm really excited to have him on this show because, like I said, I want to pick his brain. I want to get to know him, but I also want to get his point of view of all this controversy that's going on because, you know, instead of calling them gays, he calls them the F word. And I know they take that to super, super offensive. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, like I said, I've never heard anybody say that behind, you know.
Either.
It's like
that's very strong. I'm looking at his page right now. I don't have it, you know, I don't have the sound on, but oh my gosh, I don't think I've ever heard a pastor ever talk about it, like a community like that. You know,
it's like when you eat Takis and like it like in your throat, you're like, oh, that's how it is. I was like, oh damn, you know. But I mean, he genuinely seems like a nice guy, you know. But the podcast that, you know, because Steph introduced me to it, and she was like, hey, show your cousin, because like I said, my cousin's the pastor, and he was talking about the gays and stuff like that. And like I said, I started doing my digging and my homework on him, and you know. Supposedly, you know, his they say his followers are brainwashed, the people that go to church, and I'm like, no, it's really weird talking to people who are not church people and trying to get them to understand, like, yo, we're not like that. There's some that are crazy. Yeah. There's some that are crazy. Like I said, I know people who go to church and they're like straight up super duper conservative. And some people they don't dress very modern. They kind of dress like old school. They dress in a certain way and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, that's cool. I understand. But, I don't know. Like I said, I'm really excited just like to pick his brain. Because like I said, I want to get to know who he is. And, he's a Hispanic. So people are going to be like, you're brainwashed, you're whitewashed, and, so and so and stuff like that,
Yeah. No, yeah, that would be interesting. I'd probably ask him, like, why do you use such a derogative word?
That's what I'm going to ask him. Like I said, I need to write it out. Like we're supposed to record Monday, because I think he has his own podcast as well. And of course he does other things, and he does his church services on Thursdays. And then Friday he was busy. So I was like, okay, well, let's do Monday. So he's like, okay, so we're supposed to do it Monday. And I told my cousin, I was like, hey, do you want to like sit in or like be a part of this episode? And he was like, yeah, because I told him about it. And he was like, my cousin, he went to Baptist University or whatever, and pastoring and stuff like that. But he got his like theology, and my cousin's all in this and that, so he knows a lot of stuff. So right. He was like, I would like to pick his brain too about it, because like I said, I've never heard anybody talk like that before. But like I said, other sermons that I've heard from him are not as crazy as the ones that people have cherry picked and used a couple seconds of a clip to use against him.
I think that's what. So on social media, sorry, I'm eating.
No, it's fine. I understand.
I've been eating granola bars and pickles as we've been sitting here. But I think that's like being on social media as people who share their faith and things like that. Like now we have things that can be edited out, edited in, from different things. And as a pastor or a leader, like you have to be really, really careful to what's being put out there. Because I know, so I grew up in a Christian, listening to Spanish speakers. Like that's what I went to up until recently. And there was a pastor from Guatemala that they were using. It's him, but they were just cutting pieces of a sermon off to make him sound a certain way.
Yeah.
So whenever we would go to the conferences and he'd be there, he'd ask people not to record on their phones. Like he's like, if you want the preaching and things like that, I don't mind it. He's like, just buy it from the conference. He's like, don't record it, stuff like that, because this is what happens when people don't know how to edit, like, or they edit pieces out, like they make it seem horrible. So I think that like you have to be careful with it's like you said, it's only bits and pieces that people are getting. So I feel like they have to go for themselves and see like, okay, where did he say this? Why did he say it? And things like that. And it's like, I tell when people try to use the Bible against each other, I'm like, when people try to use the Bible against me when I was younger, somebody told me like, hey, like, yeah, they can use scripture, but go back into the Bible, read the whole thing to see the context of it. Because yeah, the Bible verse can be this, and they can use it against you. But if you read the whole passage, it can have a whole different meaning that has nothing to do with you.
Exactly.
So that's why I tell people, I'm like, if somebody tries to hit you with scripture, read the whole thing. Like, you know what? Let me go back and read exactly what scripture says, because you're telling me like, oh, well, you're not going to heaven because the Bible said this. If you don't acknowledge me in front of your friends, I'm not going to acknowledge you in heaven. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, that's not what God says. So somebody told me that, and they quoted that part of scripture. And I went back and I read it, and it was something totally different that had nothing to do with what was being said in that passage. So I think it's like you said, you want to get to know him, pick his brain. Why is he using things like such a strong word that it's so offensive in a way, in any way? And I feel like that would be like, so like, what makes you think this is right? Like, what if somebody said, like you said, he's Hispanic and they use a derogatory Hispanic word towards him. It's like, well, do you want somebody to talk to you like that? And things like that. So I think like as Christians, we have to approach people in a loving and compassionate way so they don't tag us like the rest of them. Like, I see people on Facebook all the time attacking Christian. I'm like, whoa, like, you can't always, tag us like that, because there's a lot of us that aren't like that. It's like, there's a small portion of people who are judgmental, who, just like to, like you said, put their noses in people's business and things like that. I was like, but know that there's a big portion out there that are not like that,
Yeah.
So to be super careful. So I'm really interested to see and hear what he has to say.
Yeah, because have you been to downtown like during like parades or something like that, and you see like those group of people where they have the picket signs, those and they have like "You're going to hell," blah 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 blah, this and that, repent. One time at Comic Palooza, which is at the George R. Brown, I saw these people and they were talking, so I stood there. And, the common person is gonna laugh and joke around with these people, and these people are serious. They're like, oh, you people are going to hell. You people need to repent, and blah, 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 blah. So I told him, I was like, why are you coming so hard at these people? He was like, this and this and that. And I'm like, but it says in the Bible, we're supposed to be loving compassion. We're supposed to be as Jesus was. We are Christ-like little Christ. Jesus wasn't all up in your face and telling you, yo, dude, you need to do this and that. And he started going back and forth with me. And while they're going back and forth, people are watching, and I'm just like, I'm testing you. I'm like, dude, why are you doing this? Why are you talking like this? And, overall, people kind of got, okay, there are Christians, but there's different kinds, and apparently these two are on the same team, but different spectrums. And, I went up to them and I'm like, hey, look, I'm not trying to be rude to you. I'm being very respectful. I was like, I'm a Christian myself, but I just wanted to see why you would talk like that. And he's like, brother, it's just this and that. I was like, I get it, but you're not going to get through these people. These people make fun of you. These people laugh at you. They record you on their phones and, put you on social media and listen, look at these hypocrites. Look at these horrible people. And, these are supposed to be Christians. They're supposed to be loving people and stuff like that. So it's like, you kind of make us look bad. And, and he was like, I was like, I get it. He's like, but, we're on the same team. I was like, we have to go show these people compassion and love, because if you don't, then, like I said, if you come at them straight from the gate, these people get offended by everything. People are just like, why are you,
Especially now.
Yeah, especially more now. So it's kind of like we have to be careful what we say. We have to be careful of how we approach things, because if we say one small thing, they take that and run with it, and it's like, dang, all of it for that just to be crumbled in pieces,
Exactly. Yeah, like the cancel culture that we have now, like, it's ridiculous, super ridiculous.
Yeah, it's dumb.
And but yeah, I'm intrigued to see what he has to say.
Like I said, I think a lot of people are.
I wonder if he uses it as a tactic, as like, let me catch your attention like this, to try to draw people in. Mm-hmm. But that's not.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, a lot of people are interested. I've been hyping this episode up since February, and one of the podcasters out in LA, I did an episode with him. And, he's been following him as well. And, he was like, yeah, I followed his podcast, his Instagram too, in the church, just to see what's up. And he's like, he's a Christian as well. And he was like, I want to pick his brain. He's like, but that's cool that you got through to him and you're going to have him on the podcast. And I was like, yeah. I was like, I don't think it's going to be where he's just going to be hard-headed, stubborn, and be attacking. I was like, no. I was like, look, I came to him very respectfully. Hey, pastor, this is, I'm so-and-so, and brother. So it's like, he knows what kind of person he's dealing with. And I can tell what kind of person I'm dealing with, because like I said, I don't see him as that kind of person that's just going to attack, And I'm like, he's Hispanic too. So I'm like, we got that. And I'm like, hey, bro, just chill. It's cool. But, yeah, that's it. So, like I said, it's going to be really interesting. I'm really excited to have him, regardless of how the episode goes. people who already have this different point of view of him will now see something different, because like I said, you only see what you see online. The people that make fun of him, that talk crap about him, that talk crap about the church, the people that ruined his church, they don't sit down and talk to him. They don't sit down and get to know him. They're like, why do you say these things? Why do you do this? What does it say in the Bible that you can back it up and stuff like that? So, judge not lest you be judged. So, why don't judge somebody and then,
I always tell people, I can't sit here and judge you for what you do because I'm not perfect and I'm not here to judge you. What you do with your life, it's between you and God. But at the end of the day, I'm here to help you. I'm here to guide you. I'm here to walk alongside you. If you stumble and you fall, I'm going to be right there with you, because that's what life is about, to be walk alongside you, to hold you accountable to things that you want me to hold accountable. And I'm not going to sit here and make you feel bad about it because I'm not more perfect than you are. And I was like, that's what it is. I was like, I can't judge you. I can't sit here and judge, because we're not perfect. Nobody's perfect, so it's like you said, you can't sit here and judge them. So you sit down with them, you get to know them, pick their brains as to why they're like this and things like that. So it's pretty cool.
Exactly. And we never claim to be perfect. I don't claim to be perfect. I'm not. I'm far from perfect. And but when people get to know me, it's kind of like, okay, he's people think, and I think I've said this in a post before, people think that we're robots. People think that, these people are just automatically supposed to be good. They're supposed to be this. They're supposed to be faultless. They're supposed to be everything perfect. And it's like, no, dude, I do the same things. I struggle with the same things just as you. We are, we're redeemed people, but we're sinners redeemed by grace. And it's like, that means that we still have to ask for forgiveness. We still have to do all these. It's just because we say, and ask Christ to be in our lives doesn't mean that, we can do whatever we want. It's clean. It's cool. We have to regularly, daily have to pick up our cross and take it with us. But we also have to ask for forgiveness. Like, hey, look, I fucked up. I need your help, and my walk has been a lot better since I started going to my cousin's church, because, like I said, I grew up in church my whole life. I know the Bible. I knew this and that. I got saved at a very young age, but things didn't start clicking to me till I got older. And I was like, it's not like, oh, okay, I finally understand. No, it's kind of like, okay, this is where it's been my whole life. This is just more clarified because, when growing up as a kid, some passages and some stories don't mean a whole lot to you, because like I said, I've heard tons of sermons and they're never some of them just weren't directed towards me. It was like, okay, I don't get that. Okay, it's like, yeah, I know you're giving me God's word, but it's like, I can't do anything with that, So, but when I got older, I started hearing things more and started noticing things more. And then, like I said, my family, we go to church, and this and that. So, it's kind of like, okay, I got it. I finally get it. So my walk has been better, and I still stumble like regular people do, but it's like, okay, my attitude's been a lot better. When I first started working at my job, I would always be like stressed out. I would always be like worrying to a point where I started getting more gray hair. Like I started when I went to the doctor, my doctor's like, "Wow, what the hell? You're so stressed out. Your heart rate's going up and this and that." And I was like, "It's because of my job." But after a while, I started just like, you know what? I can't do anything about this. I was like, why am I going to stress out so much? So like I said, I started just like, hey, look, you deal with this. It's up to you. I'm just here.
the Carrie Underwood song started playing.
You know, it's so cliche and it's so, you know, overused, but it's true. I was just like, hey, look, go ahead. Because as a person, as me, I like to take control. I need to plan things. I have to do this. I got to do this. I have to do it this way, to a point where it's like, you know what? You know, if it happens, it happens.
Everybody is like that. You know, we have to have control of our lives and things. And whenever we give our life to Christ and things like that, like we lose that control and we lose the momentum that we're going in and how things how the pace moves, because it switches from it's my time when I want it to it moving to God's timing whenever He wants it, and whenever we don't see the how God works in His time and His perfect time and in His way, we're like, God, are you even listening to me, or are you even there? You know, it's when people start to question, but it's like God isn't always going to answer our prayers or what we ask for in that moment. And sometimes He may not even answer it at all, you know? Yeah. And we have to learn how to be okay with that. You know, it's, we all have problem with control. And that's one thing that I definitely struggle with. And it's like you said, like we all struggle differently. And it's like you said, we have to pick up our cross every day and ask for that forgiveness, because one way or another, there's somewhere that we stumble in between our day alone, you know? And it's like you said, it is by grace that we're saved. And the Bible says that it is by grace that we've been saved so that no one can boast. Like, I'm not, because I received Christ, I'm not better than you. I'm not higher than you. You know, I am just as low as equal as you. And some people don't get that. Like, because I accepted Christ, I have to be perfect. I have to be this way. Like, no, the Bible, nowhere in the Bible does it say I'm going to be perfect. Nowhere in the Bible does it say that I have to be this way. It says that I have to be Christ-like, but Christ died for a reason. And it wasn't because for me to be perfect. Like, He knew past, present, and future that if that was the reason for you know, for my life to be perfect, then what was the whole reason for Christ dying? Christ's death would have been empty. Yeah. You know, like it would have been an empty death. So it's like nowhere. In fact, the Bible tells us that we're gonna face, you know, harder situations because we believe in Him, and people are gonna laugh at us and ridicule us. But at the end of the day, it's like, hey, like I'm doing this for a purpose. Whether you take it or leave it, that's on you.
Yeah, it's like people assume that like we get like this VIP card and we enter into this Christian country club, and you know everything is supposed to be la-di-da-di perfect. And I'm like, no, dude. It says in the Bible we will deal with trials and tribulation, but it's all a test. It's all like, can you take the heat? You know, there's people I've there's people I've gone to church with my whole life. They say the prayer, they accept Christ, they go to church, they, you know, and then when things start getting bad, they start like crumbling a little bit. And instead of asking for help and saying, look, I need help, I need to do this, they kind of revert back to their old life and then just stop going to church. But it's like, I've gone through the trials. I've gone through the tribulations. I've had people make fun of me. I've had people laugh at me because of what I say. I had people talk about my religion. People do that all the time online. You know, there's groups that I've joined. Like this, there's this pop punk group that I have, and there are Christians on there, you know, that like pop music, like Blink-182 and whatnot. And this one girl was looking for other Christian friends or other Christian members on there, and people laughed at her and people said all these things, and you know, and I could see that she was kind of like down about it, because she was like, I was just looking for more friends. And I had told her, I was like, hey, look, you know what's going on, you know what we have to deal with, but don't let that bother you and bring you down. It's like there's a lot of people that were good and were like, yeah, you know, hey, I'm a believer, I'm this and that, you know. And I think that kind of lifted her spirits up. But you know, when you say stuff like that and you try to find more people are just going to make fun of you. But like I said, I've dealt with those before, and to a point now where it's like, okay, I'm cool. I don't. Yeah, people can make fun of me, whatever. But okay,
Especially like in the workplace, I had that happen to me in one work area. It's like, well, aren't you Christian? Aren't you supposed to be goody two shoes? And I'm like, no, like I'm not. Like I'm far from that. Like where in the Bible does it say that I'm Miss Perfect or that I'm going to be perfect and things like that? And I'm like, it would make me so mad. I was like, you're expecting me to be this perfect person when it's not like that.
exactly.
And it would make me, but then it's like you said, like after a while you just get so used to it. Like they tell me and I'm like,
What and it's like I can imagine like people in the Bible, they're just like, whatever, dude. Just
can you imagine how Noah felt when he was telling them, like, hey, there's gonna be a great rain, it's gonna rain and we're all gonna flood and get in the boat. And like he was, building a boat when it had been years since the last time it rained. And I don't know. I don't know what I would have done if I was him. I would be like,
yeah, it's like, it's a warning, and you're just telling people, and people don't listen, and like I said, now I started like integrating more of my faith and stuff like that. I'll tell people like this and that, and I know people look at me differently, and I'm like, if you don't like it, hey, that's me. That's part of my personality. I'm gonna talk about this stuff on here on my podcast, but that doesn't mean that I'm better than it. Like you said, where does it say in the Bible? Nobody. It doesn't say nowhere that we're supposed to be perfect and I don't know where in society or when did that start, when people started to think that we're better than everybody. Because like I said, it's funny because even with last year, with the whole Trump supporters, they're like, all these Trump supporters are supposed to be Christian and this and this, and I'm like, whoa. It's like, yo, those two don't correlate together. I was like, right. Yeah, there's a lot of us that are, and yeah, a lot of us that did vote for the guy, but we're not like those crazy people. Yeah, those are crazy people.
We're not them.
And it's like,
one thing that I enjoy a lot. So like I said, I go to the porch on Tuesdays. One thing that has always stuck with me that they've said is the Bible doesn't talk about perfect people. The Bible, it talks about imperfect people used by a perfect God. And I was like, oh,
exactly. Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, I've never thought about it that way. It's like, where in the Bible does it talk about God chose a perfect person? No one in that Bible was perfect. Abraham wasn't perfect. He was selling his wife, selling his wife and saying that was his sister. Then Noah, he was obedient up until, but they got him drunk and he slept with his, I think like one of his daughters or something like that. King David slept with a married woman, and King Solomon, his downfall was women. So it's like
there's a lot of people that have done a lot of stuff, but that's funny because people they're like, I can't read it, there's nothing, and I'm like, dude, look at these people. Most of the time it's always temptations, it's always lust, and it's always like
Songs of Solomon, literally rated R.
Yeah, like I've heard. I have. It's funny too because, like I said, I joined like these Christian meme pages and Christian pages. Just so like I'm like, okay, there's other groups like that out there, and a lot of them will like they'll take a passage and they'll like make a meme of it, and I'm like, what does that mean? They're like, oh, it means this, and I'm like,
so quick little promo. The Porch did a whole series on that book. It's literally a small book inside of the Bible, and it's a romance letter, and they say that they weren't men or women, they weren't allowed to read it until the age of 30, I believe. 30 or married, one of the two. And because whenever you obviously, like, if you don't get the context and things like that of marriage, like, or what it's saying, you're like, what are they saying? But it's called rated R for romance, and it talks about dating and things like that. So they go in the book and they break it down as to what it's talking about. And I'm like, oh my God. I was like, why are they saying that? Like, they're not supposed to be talking about that. That's so shameful. But they do such a great job about it. But yes, the Bible does have, obviously, the beginning of it, it's kind of boring, but you get your war, you get your history, you get your love, you get your lust, and it's like you have just to sit down and read it, you know? And I think my favorite part about the Bible is that in the New Testament, obviously Jesus is present. Jesus is present throughout the whole thing. But in the New Testament, we see him, right? And we get to hear about him and what he has to say. But I like that you get his sense of humor. And it's like people, society have this mentality that God is so serious and he's this, and this. And I'm like, no, like God literally has a sense of humor. Like you, not only do I see it in the Bible, but I see it in people's life. I was like, that was funny. Like, I get you, God. Like, you know,
I mean, if he didn't, we would be kind of boring people. You know, we were, you know, when he made us in his image. It was like we inherited, you know, from whatever he liked. So I'm like, he had to have some kind of, I mean, look at the stuff that he made. I mean, some of the stuff he's probably like, yeah, you guys probably wouldn't understand it for another couple thousand years, but you'll get it when you get it, you know? And it's, but like I said, it's people look at us and they're like, you know, what do they have that is so, like I thought about this. It was like people look at us on the outside and they're like, why are these people so happy? Why do they have, people go through all these stress things, but they're just okay with it. And I was like, dude, you clearly don't understand what we have. We have something that is so, it's obtainable, but it's like, dude, it's like gold. And it's like, it's free gold for everybody, but it's better than gold. It's so something that it's, like I said, it's free, but people don't take it. Yeah. And it's like it
literally sits in your hand. Like it's there. It's like if they were to clearly set out a big table of delicious food, and there's no sign on there that says it's free. It's like, so do I grab it? Do I not? Nah, let me not grab it. Let's just keep going, you know? And it's like, it's so free. Like it's free and it makes you feel free. And it's like, if you don't sit down and the way that I like to explain that aspect, it's like when people are like, well, I don't know what to say or how to pray. And it's like, God is not asking you for a perfect prayer. You know, he's asking you to dialogue with him, to talk to him as if you're talking to your best friend. Yes, he knows your life. Yes, he knows what's coming for you or what you've done. I was like, but he still wants to hear it. You know, he still wants to know that you're struggling. Like he wants that relationship. You're not going to build a relationship of, you know, just walking by and not doing anything, because you don't do that with your best friend, right? Something happens to you, you directly, or you text your best friend or you call your best friend, you spend time with them and you get to know him, you build that relationship. So I was like, imagine that. Imagine like you're talking to your best friend. I was like, only, you know, he may or may not respond. Some people hear his voice and some people don't. And I was like, but just because he doesn't respond in that moment doesn't mean he's not there listening. Yeah. You know, and it's like literally your salvation is free. You don't have to work for it. I mean, can you imagine? Like, it's crazy to sit here and imagine that, because I don't know if you've heard, but I like murder mysteries. Jeffrey Dahmer, somebody who literally killed people and ate them, accepted Christ in jail. Like, can you imagine a heaven where Jeffrey Dahmer's there because he accepted Christ? I'm like, dang, that's crazy to me. Like he was a legit murderer, but because he accepted Christ, he's there. And I'm like,
there's going to be a lot of surprising people we see. And they're like, well,
wait a minute.
Like, am I in the wrong? Is this the wrong place? And it's like, no.
Actually help.
But you know, it's crazy. Like I said, all we have to do, you know, we have to be an example. We have to be, you know, with the world that we're living in, we're literally close to ending. You know, it's closing time almost for us. But it's like, even though the clock is counting down, we still have our job. We still need to go and we need to preach and tell these people about Christ. We have to win as many souls as we can, but we have to share the love of Christ as well, because people need to hear it, you know. And I think I heard somewhere where it's like, well, what about the people, like the indigenous people that have never met anybody else? And I was like, they have to hear it, you know, somehow, some way. If they reject it, they're rejected. But, you know, not everybody is going to get to go to heaven, you know, because that's just how it is. Some people reject it, but that's their own free will, you know. And, well, like I said, our job is to spread the gospel, you know, try to win souls, but also share more love if we can. As much love as we can, because like I said, in this world right now, we need it. We need to show people, because like I said, people view us as, think we're perfect, we think we're this, we think we're that. And I was like, no, dude, I'm a regular person. That's why people ask me, and they're like, well, why are you so like unfazed by things now? And I was like, because I'm cool now. I'm good. It's like I used to stress out about it, but until I just gave it to God, I'm like, hey, you can deal with it. You got it. You know, and there's so many doors that he's opened for me and things that he's done for me just because I let him take care of it, you know. And like with this podcast, you know, I'm just, hey, look, I'm here to talk, do what you do. And I've literally started meeting more people that have been helping out my podcast. So it's like, okay, if I meet more people and people think like me and this and that, I could use my platform, you know. And just, it's just, like I said, as soon as you give up everything and you just let him take care of it, it's all easy from there. You know, you will still have to deal with things, but they're not as bad, you know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, not as bad in the sense that, like, oh, we know who's going to take care of it. We know our outcome. And at the end of the day, no matter how big or how small our situation is, but it's like I said, like, the Bible never talks about us having an easy, breezy life. Like, we're going to face trial and tribulations. In fact, like that, those trials and tribulations, we face them more because that test our faith, you know, that test to see where we're at and how much are we going to trust him to take over and let him win that battle. You know, like that battle's already won. It's just a matter of fact of surrendering it and how much are we willing to, because it's like we hold on to things, but it's like, you know, it's like a string. Yeah. God has it on one end and we have the other. And it's like, you know, we're holding on to it, but then we're like, all right, you know, I'm going to give you some, but it's like, no, God wants the whole thing. So, hey, God, here it is.
You know? Yeah, it's a matter of putting trust and putting just everything on the table, all the chips, all the cards, and just, you know, hey, you got it. I'm here. You do what you do. Wherever you tell me to go, I'll go. Tell me what you want me to do. I got it. You know, like I said, I put my whole faith and I put my trust and I put everything into God's hands, because, like I said, who am I? I'm a human, you know, at fault with a lot of things. And, you know, like I said, I'm the person I got to plan this. And I'm like, why am I planning something when I know it might not go as I plan it? So I'm like, nah, I'm not going to plan anymore. Just like, hey, look, if you have something for me, I'm good for it. Just tell me, you know, if you know, whatever it is, you know, even though it's going to come to a point in time, somewhere down the line where our faith is really going to be tested, you know, with, you know, like our brothers and sisters on the other sides of the world, like in China and Russia, where people literally die for their faith, you know. Exactly. At some point in time, that will automatically have to be, you know, hopefully not one, you know, sooner or later, but where we will have to be dealing with the same precautions, you know, like, hey, you know, either you deny it or, you know, we're gonna have to kill you. And it's like, hey, dude, I'm already gonna die anyways. Mine will just hey, die again. You know, and it's funny too, because with the whole COVID thing, I joke about it. I know how serious it is, but I joke about it. People were kind of like, well, what happens if you get it? And I'm like, if I get it and I die, hey. that's just the plan. That that's how I was supposed to go, and then I'm accepting of it. I'm cool with it. It's like if I'm supposed to die of COVID at this age, okay. Hey, I lived a good life. I did what I wanted to do. I'll see y'all later. Catch me on the flip side.
Y'all want to see me? See y'all up there.
But it's exciting. I wish the image of us, as Christians just wasn't the way it is now. But like I said, we need to be a better example than we are. And hopefully when people listen to this, people would be like, okay, yeah, I was wrong about them. They're just normal people, but they have something that's obtainable, that is free, that it's not like, oh, you have to join this club and you have to do this, like with
there's so much money,
like with like I'm not throwing shade at anybody, but like with the Catholicism, you have to go and do this, you have to do these classes and stuff like that. Like me and Steph had this conversation one time. She was like, why is it like when you guys go to church and somebody feels convicted and they get saved and then that's it? I was like, well, it's not necessarily like that. It's like there's people that come and that happens for them, but there's some people that will continue to keep coming and it hasn't happened for them, and it might take a couple days, a couple months, a couple years for them to finally acknowledge and get saved, and then after you get saved, you have to, go to classes and start reading the Bible and learn about your faith and stuff like that. And with Catholics, it's the opposite. They start doing that way young, and up till I think they understand it, then that's when they make their confession and they have their whole little thing. So she didn't understand it. And I had to like tell her, I'm like, it's literally reverse. And it's like, we don't have to go and do these classes. It's just like when you know. And then after that, it's like, okay, now that you're saved, here's your book. Go ahead and learn what you need to learn. We have classes for you. And yeah, small group devotionals. What's it called? Small groups, and stuff like that. Yeah. You're learning on the way, it's not like, okay, let me prepare. And then, cause there's some people that'll go through, classes and stuff like that, and then just never acknowledge it. They're just like, yeah, I went to church and, I did the whole classes, but it's kind of like it's not a waste of time for them, but it's like, it's not necessarily how it goes.
And they also believe that like, you have to do certain amount of work to have that in order to get to heaven. And I've always asked my mom, and again, like you said, we're not throwing any shade or things like that. It's just, I always wondered, I was like, Mom, like, why is it that they pray to saints or to the Virgin Mary when in fact the Bible tells us not to pray anything that's man-made? And things like that. Like, why are they making these saints a priority versus going straight to God? And, because Jesus made that way, and she was like, I don't know. And it's like you said, I joined groups and things like that. There's one called the Abide Tribe, which is solely for women. And there's women there who are fully Christians, and there are women there who are Catholic, which is fine. And so at the beginning, there was a lot of women that were looking for Catholic women, to get together and things like that. And one of them said that it was that they use the saints as interceders, like they intercede for their prayer. And I'm like, why do you need for somebody to intercede for your prayer if God literally tells you can pray directly to him? But of course, like, I wasn't going to get in that argument with them or things like that, because that wasn't my place.
Yeah.
But it's like that verse that I quoted earlier, I was like, look, I want to quote it, but I also don't want to quote it wrong. So in Ephesians 2:8-9, it says, "For it is by grace you have been saved through faith, and this is not from yourselves. It it is the gift of God. And it's like you were saying, it's a gift. You take it, it's free. You don't have to pay for it. Jesus paid for it by dying on the cross, not by work, so that no one can boast. So we can't, there's no amount of work that we can do or sit here and say like, oh, this is going to get me to heaven. It's like, no, it's not. Like, you doing good works and being a good person is not going to get you into heaven. Like, that's not what God says. Like, accepting Jesus is what's going to get you to heaven. And it's a lot that I like, you know, I talk about too. I'm like, we literally don't have to do anything except Christ. The only thing that is asked of us is we preach about Christ and we preach the gospel and we make disciples. And then those disciples go out and do the same thing. And that's all it is. It's nothing hard. He's not asking you to do 20 jumping jacks, 50 push-ups, nothing, you know?
That's why I never understood. Like, I've known people who were Catholic. I've gone to mass with stuff before, and I'm just like, no, you don't have. Like I said, we've had conversation where I'm like, you don't have to do works. It's like the only thing you really necessarily have to do is just study, get into the Word, learn about it. But also tell other people about it. You know, once you tell them, those people, they accept it, and then they're going to go tell more people. And then, you know, like it's when Jesus said, literally go out and spread the word. You know, that's what the disciples did. And
yeah,
and that's what literally we're called to do. And that's necessarily all we have to do. We just got to go spread it and then continue to live it by faith and in our faith, you know, and all that. And just, there's no like, oh, we got to go to meet Father so and so and confess and this and that. And I'm like,
I always ask. My friend. I had a friend, my old neighbor. In fact, she was Catholic, and she would take me to their classes and things like that. And I remember like her teacher was like, "Well, what do you know about the Virgin Mary?" And I was like, "She was just the mother of Jesus." And she was like, "And do you know why she's important?" I was like, "I mean, she was just used as an instrument, you know, to bring Jesus, and that's it." I was like, she wasn't a virgin her whole life. She had other kids after that.
She was literally, yeah.
She looked at me kind of crazy, like, that's not what we say around here. I was like,
It's literally, she was just this. She was just a vessel. I mean, she was really important. She was very important to the story, but what was more important, what was inside, you know. And it's funny, you know, people will, like, they pray to her and this and that. Like, when I went, they all have like this, I guess, certain time during mass where they turn to the statue. And I was like, wait, what are we turning to? And I was like, why are you praying to her? And I'm like, yo, she's probably like that. She's like, we got to do with this again. Come on. You know, but like I said, she was very important to the story, to everything. But like you said, she wasn't a virgin her whole life. She had other kids. He had brothers, you know.
James is literally we just went through this in the porch. James is one of his younger brothers, you know, and he has the whole book in the Bible that talks about him. And it's like, there weren't his full-blooded brothers. Obviously there were his half brothers, but it's like, we have to be careful in a sense. Like, again, we're not bashing any religion or anything like that. It's just like our thoughts, and this has always been our thoughts. So if there's somebody out there that, you know, obviously inform us, because half of my family's quote unquote Catholic, but they only go when, you know, important events,
Christmas, Easter.
Yeah, Christmas, Easter, or weddings, you know. And so my cousin would always say her Hail Marys and, you know, pray the Lord's Prayer, which we do. We pray the Lord's Prayer. And I think what we do, I don't know if your cousin church does it. I know my church does it, and the church that hosts the porch does, where they have the Last Supper, where they do the bread or that little circle thing.
Yeah, we have our communion. We do that like once at the beginning of the first Sunday of the month. And now, since it's COVID, they come in like little packets. So each one of us gets a packet. So we do the Lord's Supper.
Yeah, and for them, the Lord's Supper, the communion, they can't do it unless you've done the classes.
Yeah.
And for us, if you've accepted Christ, you can take the Lord's Supper. So I like I said, my neighbor, she used to take me with her, and her teacher used to, well, why don't you come and learn? And I'm like, no, like I already have a church. Like I was just dragged, was just asked to come. And so whenever they would do the communion, I wouldn't be able to go up there because obviously I didn't have the classes and things like that. And it's like, I feel like the when you find the right community, it's including like, hey, like you don't have to go through all these steps, come, and be part of us. Like there's always going to be bad people and there's always going to be good people. It's just finding where the Lord wants to have you, not where you feel comfortable, but where the Lord wants you and things like that. And I feel like the community that I have now, obviously there's been very trial and error and things like that. I make friends and then, it's a whole thing, but it's where I feel like I belong, where I feel like I have found my community, brought them in, and they've walked alongside of me and shown me, like you said, my faith has grown since I've met them and things like that. It hasn't worked out for many people, but I'm like, hey, like it hasn't, wherever you were in your life that hasn't worked out for you, I'm still here for you. I don't judge, like I said, I don't judge them. And it's like, whatever you need, I'm here to serve you and be your friend. Like, I don't want you to do this life alone because we're not meant to do it alone.
Exactly. We're supposed to have like our accountability partner. So,
yeah.
But like my cousin always says, he's like, when you meet somebody that's like maybe who believes in who's a Buddhist or a Muslim or an atheist or whoever, he said it's always smart to know about their religion too, because atheists will use whatever excuse they can do and then throw it at you, but it's like if you can think like them and then kind of like, okay, well, if you think this way, but it's actually this way, so let me show you this why you're wrong. The same thing like with a Muslim or a Buddhist or whatever else. If we can think like the other and then still have our other thinking and use that to help them, it's like my cousin said, it's using that state of mind to help them out as well. Because it's really weird dealing with people who are agnostic or they're atheists because they used to be former Christians, and it's like, dude, you're never former. It's like once you accept it, you can't, like, it's no taking back. It's just whatever that you're going through in your life, and whatever little whispers you heard in your ear, it took you into that direction. And it's like, but there are people that you meet along your way that God has put there that's like, hey, look, go back. It's not what you think. But a lot of those people, they go to church and sometimes like I said, they're former Christians or were never saved at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I've had friends that used to go to church and they're like, well, now I'm an atheist. And I'm like, well, what happened in your life that, it had to be that way? And it was like, oh, it's a lot of do's and don'ts. And I'm like, no, it's not. Christian literally means be a Christ follower. Like you're supposed to follow Christ. The Bible is just the guide as to how you're supposed to live your life. Like if you fall short in between of any of those, like, you're not going to die. You're not going to go to hell. God is not going to love you any less. In fact, like God is going to love you more because you're broken. You need him and things like that. And I was like, and it's not about the do's and the don'ts. And it's like, well, no, you can't drink. And I was like, where in the Bible does it say that I can't drink? Like, it says that you're not supposed to get drunk. Like, if you're doing solely for the purpose to get drunk, then it's a problem. Like, I'm like, I mean, I drink. I sit here and have just one or two, and that's it. Like I don't push myself to the limit to where I'm going to be blacked out drunk. And I'm like, the Bible doesn't tell you to do that. I was like, no, you're just nitpicking the things that you don't want, that they aren't aligning with the life that you want,
Exactly.
And it's like, what can I tell you? Like, it's a guide. The Bible is a guide of what has happened
when sin is involved. I was like, but because God came, I mean, Jesus came to die for us, all of that is redeemed. Of course, it doesn't mean that, like, oh, go and do whatever the heck you want, but it means, hey, I don't know, like, I guess people don't get that concept that whenever you fall short, God is still going to love you regardless. Um, you know, it's like God still loves the people inside of the church, but he's going to fight harder for the people who are broken, for the people who have stumbled. God is not going to meet you halfway in your walk. God is going to meet you right where you're at. Like, if you're way over here and you see God way on the other side, like, God is literally going to walk to you and come to you and pick you up and be like, hey, let's go, man. Like, you fell. That's all right. Shake it off and let's keep walking. He's not going to leave you. He's not going to forsake you. Nothing. God is not going to shame you for what you've done. He's not going to condemn you, because all he does is love. Like, the love that he has for us, it's so, like, we're never going to understand. Like, I always ask myself, like, man, God, like, I screw up day in and day out, and yet you still love me for me. Like, you created me in your image and you knew that I was going to fall, but still, like, what makes you love me so much? Like, as a person, as a human, I don't feel that way. I don't feel like I deserve that love, but yet you still give it to me. And it's like, it's always going to be that way. And I don't know. I feel like people need to understand that God is never, God, no matter how far you run, he's going to run faster to chase you. Or he's going to wait until you realize and you put up your hands and you're like, all right, this is it. Like, I've had enough. Nothing in this world is ever going to satisfy me. And it's only going to be Jesus. And it's like, God is going to be like, all right, cool. This is what I've been waiting for. Let's go.
Yeah. And like you were saying, the do's, people are like, oh, the do's and don'ts. And I'm like, I've been in church where people have said the do's and don'ts. You're not supposed to drink. You're not supposed to curse. You're not supposed to do drugs. You're not supposed to have sex before marriage. You're not supposed to. As like, we're human beings. We're gonna do that, and it's like, yeah, we nowhere in the Bible says we can't. It's like, we're not supposed to get drunk, because once you get drunk, all your mind is different. So
you have a clouded mind.
Yeah, it's a clouded mind. You need to be sober and vigilant, because you got to look out. So if you're drunk and you're gonna do things that you're not supposed to, and like I said, I've dealt with people with the do's and don'ts, and I was like I said, that one of the guys at that church we were going to, he was like, you had sex before marriage, and I'm like, okay. I was like, I mean, so did your wife, but I was like, but you don't tell her anything, and it's like, if you can follow those rules, hey man, kudos, you had the extra strength, coin where it helped you, like, not have sex before marriage, because it's hard for a lot of people, in this day and age. Sure. But like, just because you did it doesn't mean that it makes you any less of a Christian or makes your faith any less than anybody else's. It's just like, okay, I did it. It happened. I was like, dude, there's probably tons of people in the Bible who have done that before. And it's kind of like, and we look up to these people, and it's just like, well, they kind of did the same thing. But like I said, there is no woman. Yeah. There are do's and there are don'ts, but it's not like, if you do this, it's invalid. Your salvation is invalid. It's just like, hey, yeah, there are guidelines. It's like this and this and this and this. Okay, if you mess up, okay, that's whatever. Just ask for forgiveness. Just try not to do it again. And if you fall, you keep doing it. But after a certain time, it's kind of like, okay, you need to find the root of why you keep doing this, so then you won't do it later on. But yeah, people have to, I think we as Christians, we need to all kind of come together and be like, hey, look, we need to get rid of these stereotypes about us, because it's not making us look any better, and it's just like, we're trying to reach people. How are we going to reach people when people think that country club snobs that think that we're better than everybody, and I'm like, no, that's not true.
Exactly. I know and that's what I try to tell people, like, we're not all the same. I'm sorry that you felt, you've been in bad places and bad churches and things like that. But the people, this doesn't define who God is at the end of the day. God is not some snob, or, like I said, he's not going to condemn you or shame you for what you've done in the past. It's all about talking to him and giving it to him. And it's like you said, it's like, if you keep repeating the same sin, it's like, hey, find accountability, find the root of where this is coming from, take care of it, bring community in, and, your community is going to your solid community is going to walk alongside you and help you move forward, from not falling again in the future and things like that. And I don't know, it's just letting people in, the right people in, because of course, like, you can't tell a lot of people your story, because there's going to be people that are going to take it and run with it and then paint this whole image of you. But there are going to be people who need to hear your story. It's like you said, like you said at the beginning, well, I'm not too sure if I want to do that. It's like, no, yes, do it, because you're using your platform to bring people who will probably need to hear your story. Because I know the Christian YouTuber that I watched, whenever I heard her story, sadly, it's not on YouTube anymore. Well, the part that I heard at that time that she was going through, she took it down because she was like, oh, like, she was crying and things like that. And she was like, I'm going to take it down. I just don't know when. And eventually she did. But now she has a podcast and she's super great. And she talks about part of her story. She talks about her story there. Because for me, like I said, I volunteer at the porch and I'm part of the prayer team. And there's people that come up there with such heavy stuff, that you're like, oh, wow, but for me, God has always shown me or brought me people to pray for. It's either something that I've already gone through or something that I just finished going through. And I keep in touch with those people because it's like, oh, I've already experienced this, or I'm going through it. So let's either walk alongside with each other, hold each other accountable, or, hey, like, I already went through this. Let me show you how I overcame this, and I'm going to be here for you. So it's showing that love and respect and being peaceful. Like you said, unify as one and break down those barriers and their stereotypes, because whenever we screw up in society, it's like, well, no, now they're all like that. It's like, no, we're not all like that.
Exactly. But yeah, people hear this, like I said, maybe it'll open their eyes and be like, oh man, maybe I was wrong, but that's the whole point. Like I said, that's why I think it was pretty cool to have you on here, because it's like, we're both Christians and we both have same point of views and we both can talk to each other about things like that, because we understand it and we can clarify and make it easier for whoever's listening to be like, they have this negative connotation of what Christians are, and then they listen to us and they're like, oh, okay, well, maybe they're not bad. Because I just joined TikTok, and for like a long time I was talking crap about TikTok, but I found a lot of Christian TikTok, whatever, people who do TikTok, and it's really refreshing seeing some of these people, because they break it down for them easier. And it's like, look, we're just normal people. It's not this religion that we subscribe to. It's a lifestyle, and one guy, like you were saying, that people got hurt by the church, and it's like, hey, look, we're sorry that happened, but it's not Jesus that hurt you. It's humanity that hurt you. We're horrible people. Humans are horrible people in general. They hurt you. Jesus didn't hurt you. So don't take it out on him and be like, well, God, you this and this. It's like, no, dude, just the people that, I've dealt with that before, where I've had people who are like, you know, I don't like your church because they're rude. And I'm like, look, those people are rude. It's like, we're not all rude, but it's like, don't take that out on you possibly starting a relationship with Christ because so-and-so was bad. You know, like, for example, the church we used to go to a long time ago, we were there for 10 years. I grew up there. You know, I have a cousin who I'm not going to say his name, but the pastor would kind of like, hey man, you know, you need to stop doing that. He would convict him, and my cousin didn't like it. And to a point to where my cousin would like kind of not believe in, you know, like I said, we're Christians in our family, but my cousin would like kind of just like not care what our pastor used to say, or ex-pastor. And he would just be like, you know, I can't stand him. He thinks that he's better. And I'm like, dude, he's kind of like telling you, you know, maybe you need to get out of what you're doing. And he was like, no, that's why I don't want to go to church and this and that. And I was like, well, don't take it out on God. God didn't do nothing to you. It's just the person. Like I said, we're different. There's not all of us are the same, you know, and it sucks that people see it that way. And they're like, you know, that's why they become atheist or agnostic, or they turn to a different religion. You know, they turn to a certain religion because they say God hurt them or Jesus was. And it's like, no, it's just people hurt you. God didn't do anything. You know, I know it looks bad because you're like, oh, these are, like you said, we've been saying for this whole episode, Christians. We're Christians, and sometimes we don't walk the walk, or we don't talk the talk. And then that makes us look bad, and then people are just like, well, I don't want to be a part of that. And it's like, no, dude, what we believe in is so much different than how those people are. Those people are just assholes, you know, plain and simple. You can't really just go around it. Some people are just assholes. It sucks, but that's it, you know.
Yeah, it's like we face people who have different views than us, but it's like when it comes to this, I don't even want to say that being a Christian is, like I said, it's not mainly a religion. It's more being a Christ follower. That's how I've learned to view it now, because religion it's all about the do's and the don'ts. You know, it's like we said, it's about being strict, and you know, and if you don't do this, you're not going to get to heaven. If you do that, you're going to go to hell. It's like, no, you know, and it's not about that, you know, and I don't know, it just bringing people in, giving them clarity, and not being afraid to tell them, hey, you know, there's a God and things like that. Like I've had somebody who was like, well, what are you going to do if what you're believing in is a lie? I'm like, man, I would rather spend my life believing in this and be wrong and there be nothing than not believing at all. And then, you know, finding out there's a higher power and I did my whole life completely wrong, you know, because then now I'm doomed for the rest of eternity. And it's like, I would rather do it that way than, you know, doing it the wrong way.
Exactly.
And it sucks that some people go from, you know, believing to not believing at all. I've met some really great people and things like that are like, oh, well, I don't believe in that because, you know, XYZ. And, you know, they know the Bible inside and out. And I'm like, dang, like, dude, like, you know so much, like what happened that you don't want to believe anymore. And it's like, well, because, you know, my sister, you know, is such a good person and a great follower. And, you know, she's sick. She cried. God gave her this. And I was like, but wait, is your sister mad about this? Like, is your sister mad because she's having to go through this? And no. Well, then why are you mad? What is it?
They always use that excuse.
Yeah. And I'm like, no, it's not your business. It's not, you know, it's not yours to be mad about. You know, I was like, if your sister's not mad, then why are you mad?
Exactly.
And it's like,
you know, like with my grandmother, she, you know, she got sick. She ended up losing her leg, but she never complained. She was just like, okay, you know, and it never once shook my faith because I was like, okay, you know, I'm not mad at God because he's doing this to my grandmother. And it's like, you know, hey, it's just, that's just a part of life. She's getting older. Things happen, you know. And when she passed, I wasn't mad. I was just like, okay, I know where she is. This was supposed to happen. I spent my time with her, and it's like, I'm not mad. I'm not mad that my grandmother passed away, or as people say, God took her away from her. I'm like, no, I'm fine. I'm okay. I'm not gonna use this situation and be like, God, why'd you do this? You know, when people do that, it's a horrible excuse to use, because it's like, God didn't magically pick someone and be like, you know what, I'm just gonna give them cancer. There you go. Or I'm gonna give them some kind of incurable disease. You know, it doesn't work like that. You know, God's just not doing this to people. That's just our bodies. Our bodies happen like this. There's diseases or stuff like that. So I hate it. I hate it when people say that, you know, why did God do it? I was like, God didn't do this, man. It's just, this is part of life.
World. We live in a sinful, broken world, you know, like something that was mentioned this past week on Tuesday. It's like, if you're a believer, this isn't your heaven. This is your hell. If you're not a believer, this is your heaven, you know? And it's like, that's true. You know, this isn't, we live in a, huh? Oh, Chick, over here, please. It's like, you know, and it's true. Like we do live in a broken world where sadly sickness, murder, and all that stuff it's here, because that's how that's how our foundation started. And, you know, thanks to our ancestors, Adam and Eve, that's what happened. You know, they didn't listen, and oh, look, it's over there. They didn't listen, and we live in a broken world where all this stuff does exist, and people don't get that. People who don't know don't get that.
Yeah, and it's hard for them to see it that way, because, you know, everything wants it to be, they always want to blame everything on God. And it's like, you know, and the same thing too, you know, when people say that, you know, why do good things happen to why do bad things happen to good people? Why did God let this happen? And it's like, come on, man. You really gonna, I can't, it bothers me. And I'm like, you know, why did God do this? Why? And I'm like, he didn't, you know, it's like he didn't necessarily, like I said, he didn't just be like, you know what, let's make it interesting. Let's do this. You know, he didn't do,
let me sprinkle a little bit of everything in there.
Yeah, you know, hey, let's do this pandemic and ruin everything for everybody. Hey, let's give this person an incurable cancer. Hey, let's turn this person to the, you know, they want to blame God so much, but it's like, no, dude, I was like, do you blame your parents for how you are? Maybe you do. I don't know. Some people probably do. You know, do you blame your parents that you have one leg shorter than the other? No. I was like, you're just born that way. And it's like, that happens. But, you know, they constantly want to keep going against the creator, but you won't. I don't even know how to say it, but it's just, it bothers me when people say that stuff. You know, why does this stuff happen? Why does he let this stuff happen? You know, and to kind of cut it short too, it's like people, when they talk about being sexually molested and stuff like that, you know, why did God let this happen? I was like, man, I don't know what to tell you. It's like, this is just a sinful world. Sin happens. And, you know, what can we do? He's like, well, you know, where's God when we, and I was like, well, I don't know why people expect him to just like jump from behind the bushes and be like, okay, I'm here. You know, what's up? What, you know, oh, you have this person doing this to you? Fine. You know, I got it. They expect him to show up, but it's like, why do you expect this person who you don't believe in to show up, and then you want to blame him for not showing up because this thing happened? And it's like,
it's a whole circle.
It's like, dude, you make me want to like drink because you're so confusing, you know, but it's like,
I don't drink,
you know, but like I said, it's some people, hopefully, like I said, when they hear this episode, they will get a buffet size plate of things that are going on that people didn't know. Like I said, we talked about our faith a little bit in our little online dating episode, but with this one, it's like it's out there. It's on paper. It's out. It's gonna be on the internet, and it's like we're talking about this. We're trying to show people, hey, look, this is us. You know, we're trying to be better people, and don't criticize us and don't judge us. It's like, because we don't judge you. Just, hey, you know, let us be us. We'll let you be you, but we also want to help you. You know,
we want you to go where we're going. Come on.
Exactly. You know, it's never. I mean, it'll be fun, but it's like it'll be fun when we have our friends there, even more friends. You know, because obviously we don't want our friends and family and stuff like that to go to hell, because that's just a horrible place. And then it bothers me when people are like, I'm ready to go to hell. And I was like,
but are you ready though?
Do you necessarily know what's going to be going on? Mm-hmm. And I think people don't understand that. And I think like with society and culture, they
paint this picture of it being like, oh, it's going to be all the sins that we like.
Yeah, it's a party.
No, it's not. It's not going to be that way. Like, you are literally going to be in agony for eternity.
Exactly.
There's no end time. You know, it's like you're there forever. And it's like, if you don't understand what forever means, to be in agony, then man, like, it's not going to be the partying. It's not going to be all these sins that make you happy. Like, it's far from that. Far. You're missing it. And again, I'm gonna reiterate. None of this is to shame anybody. None of this is to say that we're better than you guys. We're not. We keep constantly saying we're not better than anyone. We're not perfect. We're not meant to be perfect. There's only one perfect person in this life. And of course, like, if anybody has questions that either one of us can answer, be free to message us, you know, and ask us questions. And if we can't answer, obviously we're going to turn to people who might know the answer, and we get the answer with you guys. There's something called gotquestions.org or .com. I can't remember exactly. But you go on there, and if you ask Bible questions, like it'll pop. It's kind of like Google, but it'll populate like Bible answers back. You know, it's a hard life, and God doesn't want you to suffer at all. This is not like this. This is not what this world was meant to be. But sadly, we live in a broken, sinful world where things are going to happen, whether we understand them, whether we're not. Sometimes we're not going to understand them ever. And we have to be okay with not understanding life at all, to a certain extent. But for sure, like, you have to give your testimony as to how you came to that, because there's going to be people out there now who are going to want to listen to, it's like, well, what makes him want to be better, or what makes him, you know, better than the next person. But like I said, none of us are better than the next. We just decided to take that free gift and run with it.
Exactly. You know, and like I said, I don't know where I would be if my grandparents didn't accept that gift first, because like I said, because of them, you know, my dad started going to church, and then my dad brought my mom, and then, you know, they both started going to church, and then I was brought in, and now I'm bringing Steph, and, you know, it's just like, because of them, the dominoes fell, and they fell in a good favor for me, you know. And just like I said, my testimony, I actually did, like, not a sermon, but I kind of went up there and just like told my sermon. I mean, not my sermon, but like my testimony and stuff like that, and what I strive to be for people that I guess wanted to know, you know. I got saved pretty young, but thinking back on it now, I don't think I knew what I actually did, but I believed it. And then when I got older, I was like, you know what? I need to make this confession one more time. and then it changed my life. And you know, the person that I want to be, of course we want to be like Christ, but the other person is my grandmother. Like I said, my grandmother was strong in her faith. You know, she believed in everything that she believed in until the day she died, till she took her last breath. And I strive to want to be like her because she knew everything. She trusted God even when she had been in several comas, even though she was diabetic, even though she lost her leg, even though, you know, she was constantly getting sick and stuff like that. She never once blamed it on him. She was like, hey, look, this is what's happening. And she gave everything up to God. And that's why I did the same thing. I'm just like, you know what? It was good for her. It's good for me. And, you know, that's what I strive to be like. I want to be an example like her because she was just different. You know, I've never met people who have been at that same level as her. And, but yeah, that's who I strive to be. You know, like I said, we strive to be like Christ, but an example of who I want to be spiritually is like my grandmother, if I can. It might take some time, but you know, even she like I said, she wasn't perfect either. She had her faults and stuff like that, but she still chose to still believe and pick up her cross and, you know, ask for forgiveness and just be a better person the next day. So
Yeah, exactly. And I think for me, my mom, so my mom's side of the family, they were in the Mormon church, and then they switched to being Catholic. And then because of my mom, she went to a small Christian church when she was younger. She brought in my grandma, and then it was just her and my grandma. And then for a really long time, and then obviously I came along, and then my aunt, one of her sisters, and then her other two siblings ended up staying within the Catholic Church. My grandpa was always very like in and out. But then he once, you know, he hit a hard patch in his life and he accepted Christ as an older man. But after that, like now my mom's side of the family was more, like I said, quote unquote Catholic, but we've had Christian funerals for several of our family members. And I'm like, wow. I was like, even though I didn't know, you know, because whenever we found out that my uncle was sick and things like that, I was like, all I care about, I was like, is his salvation. I don't care about his sickness. I'm not mad about that. You know, it's far from it. Like I legit cried for his salvation. I was like, I don't know where my uncle is at or sits with, you know, his relationship with God and things like that. And I don't know if he has a faith. I mean, he claims the Catholic faith, but I don't know, you know? And whenever he passed, that's what made my heart hurt the most. I still didn't know. Yeah. You know, I don't know where he was at in his walk. I don't know if he had a path or what. So that was my thinking. I was like, am I going to see him? Am I not? You know, and things like that. And so when his funeral came about and things like that, like they asked my aunt, like, hey, like, what do you want to do? Do you want to bring a priest? Do you want to bring a pastor? Do you want, you know, a general service? And they're like, well, no, bring a pastor. And it happened to be my dad's cousin-in-law. And he gave the service, and he had said that he had several conversations with my uncle, and he was like, no, yeah, he's like, I've already accepted Christ. And he started watching Christian sermons and things like that. So that put my heart at ease. I was like, all right, cool. I was like, that's all I was really worried about. And that was answered. My mom's other sister, she watches our home church from time to time. And, you know, it went from having, you know, the Virgin Marys everywhere to just having a painting of Christ. And I'm like, oh, okay, you know, cool. And one of my cousins too, that was one of her daughters was very much into, like, you know, having being Catholic and she converted to being a Christian. So it's like slowly seeing family members, you know, seeing what we see and experiencing what we're experiencing and things like that. And my dad's side of the family is harder.
Yeah.
They grew up Christian, and my great grandma, she was very like your grandma, like she believed in God. Anything that was coming her way, like she did not care. And she was like, nope, like my faith is strong, my faith is strong, it's stronger, my God is stronger. So whenever she passed, of course, like it hurt the family in a sense, but because of her, sadly, because of her, it had to take for her to pass. I mean, she was already older in age. One of my uncles decided to follow Christ because she would always tell him, go back to church. And, you know, she'd tell all of them. And it took for her to pass in order for him to realize that, you know, hey, now it's my time to go. My uncle completely stopped drinking, stopped partying, and now his life is different than what I remember. And I'm like, wow, like an impact like that, like you said, a family member, although we strive to be, you know, like Christ, like we still have people who inspire us, but we also, when we look at man, I think we have to be really careful. Like we have to be super careful as to who we look at, because we're still human. We still fall. I try to say, like, I tell people, like, don't look at me as a example, because I'm the example as that I'm going to screw up. If you want to see example of screw up, right here. You know, but it's like, hey, you know, because there's people that I know with inside of the church that with the ministry that I'm in, they're like, oh, like I love, you know, the way that so and so preaches, and I, you know, this is how I strive to be. And it's like, no. God doesn't need another David Marvin. God doesn't need another JP or whatever. God wants you to be you. And God needs you to be you. God needs me to be me. Because at the end of the day, if one of those men fall, what's going to happen? It's going to, if you've based your faith on just them, your faith is going to crumble when they crumble. So it's like, no, like God is using them as vessels. They're instruments to bring us the word. And that's what I always remind about people. Like there's a girl that was like, oh, like this pastor, like he said he's been struggling with like, I think it was like pride or something like that. And so he decided to step down. He was like, hey, like, you know, I'm the head pastor of the church, but as the head pastor, it's my job to be like, hey, like I'm being prideful, so that's not going to help out my church. So I'm going to take a step back in the meantime that I fix this, and then I'm going to come back. And she was like, oh, like it's so sad. And I'm like, you have to remember he's a man, he's human, he's allowed to feel this way. I was like, this is where people make mistakes. Like at the end of the day, the only person that we should look up to is God, plain and simple. Exactly. I was like, we're just instruments, and move forward.
Exactly. Well, it's pretty funny that we were like, well, what are we going to talk about? You know, let's ask questions and stuff like that. And it's funny how I guess this was what's supposed to be about. Yeah. You know, it's yeah, exactly. Like I said, these are the episodes that I think are always going to happen somehow. Like I said, I had my cousin on. My cousin's the pastor of our church, you know. He actually wants to do his own podcast as well. But like I said, well, I want to have him, just me and him, and so he can do his own thing. But these are kind of the things, like I want to have people who are same faith as me. And it's like, look, they believe in the same thing as me, but this is an example of like, hey, look, we're all different. We all have faults. We all have problems. We all have this and that, but our faith is what makes us stronger. Our faith is what makes us more better, you know, spiritually, because we strive to be better. We strive to want better and stuff like that. So like I said, this was really awesome that this is what the episode turned out to be like. Because like I said, maybe this is meant for somebody who's supposed to be listening on your side or mine. So
exactly.
We got like, I don't know. Do I have anything else I want to talk about? I think we're good. We'll do the quick segment. Is there any like new music that you've been listening to lately, or?
No, I just listen to my typical country. I've been going two-step in this whole new year.
Really?
Like, yeah, I love to two-step. Two-step is so much fun. If anybody is out there that wants to two-step, hit me up.
There's places that do that. I know that.
Yeah, I actually started to go two-stepping with the people that I hang out with at the church now. I'm going to introduce Daniel to it, and I'm like, it's so simple. Let's go. I was thinking, if I can dance two-step, you can dance two-step too. That's what I tell everybody.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, aside from country, like I listen to definitely a lot of worship music, and then I definitely like to listen to my old 2000s like pop rock music and things like that, because
Yeah.
I don't like any of the new stuff that comes out.
The same. You know, with me, it's different. I kind of like to, like when I listen to music, it's like grocery shopping. It's like, oh, okay, this is this. Okay, look at this. Okay, there's so many things, but I test. Like, it's funny. This morning, I have Spotify, and Spotify has like New Music Fridays. The list was like super long, so I'm listening to songs, and I'm like, man, all these songs are garbage. And I'm like, a lot of them are like hip hop, and a lot of them like, I like hip hop, I like rap, I like all this and that, but it was like, this is just not good. And I was like, why is Spotify trying to promote this artist who is garbage? And so I ended up stopped listening to that playlist, because I was like, I'm getting nothing from here. And I got maybe like one song out of like 40, I think.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm not a music snob, but like I like this, I don't like this, but I ended up just listening to my typical music. I got all kinds of stuff going on. So anything new lately I've been listening to, just a lot of podcasts, really. The podcast I've been listening to, there's this guy, his name is Jose. I've had him on the show before. His podcast is called Ranting with Ramos, based out of LA. His podcast, as he says in the beginning, is not meant for everybody. It's he tells it how it is. If you don't like it, he's unapologetic for it. He's just like, hey man, this is just me. If you don't like it, you don't listen to it. I've been listening a lot to his podcast. There's another one. This guy's named Steven Martinez, but he goes as Mega Man. I did a pre-recorded episode with him. He's really cool. He talks about his story. We talked about some stuff too. His family also grew up in church and stuff like that. And he started telling me about his life story. And I'm like, dude, God is using you with your platform to reach these people, to show that, hey, look, you've had it all, and then you've lost it, where you were homeless for a while, and then you had it again, and then you lost it, and then now you have it back. And it's like, God used you and put you through these trials to make you stronger and make you better. And now that you have this example of your life, and you telling these people reach out to him and tell him, hey man, your story really affected me, and I've gone through the same thing, and it's nice to know that somebody out there went through the same thing as well and came out better on the other side. So I told him, I was like, hey man, God's using you, and that's great. And I've been listening to his podcast as well, and there's other people too I've been checking out and stuff like that. So I listen to a lot of podcasts, but I haven't really been listening to a lot of new music lately.
I can recommend you like faith-based podcasts. I know The Porch has their own. It's called Views from the Porch, so it has nothing to do with the sermons on Tuesdays. It's completely different.
Mm-hmm.
Sadly, I haven't listened to it in a while, just because like after COVID, I don't know, like during COVID they did something really weird, and I was like, oh, like I have to go back and listen to it, and sometimes I'll catch up and sometimes I don't. And then the pastor who actually started the Views from the Porch podcast ended up moving to Waco for him to be the head pastor of that church. And he started his own podcast on that side, and it's called Becoming Something. So both of those are aimed for young adults.
Mm-hmm.
And both of them are super awesome. I'm super behind on the Becoming Something too, because during COVID they did pre-recorded and then they dropped them all at the same time. So I was like, I can't do everything. But and then for women, I think it's called the YouTuber that I was talking about. Her name is Janine Amapola, and she's the reason why I found the porch. Her podcast is called Happy and Healthy. And then another one for women too. I mean, men can listen to that one too, but she aims more towards women. And then I used to listen to one called Set Apart Girl, and that one's pretty good too with women.
Mm-hmm.
But for sure, for everyone, it's Becoming Something podcast, and then the Views from the Porch.
Yeah, I started listening to this one faith-based one. It's called Not a Christian Podcast. He's like, it's not a podcast like talking about like, it's not a Christian podcast. It just happened to be a podcast started by Christian, but he also talks about his faith. He's a, is it not an assistant pastor, but he is like, he's like a counselor. He works at this university in Texas somewhere, and he, you know, he works with all the college kids and he witnesses to them and stuff like that. But he has his own podcast. Like I said, he talks about how he got saved and then talks about all this interesting stuff. So I've been trying to keep up with him. I follow him. He seems pretty cool. I think I might try to get him on the podcast as well. I mean, I don't want to like ask somebody and not listen to their stuff. So I'm just checking out his stuff and seeing this and that, you know. But it's pretty cool. He's pretty funny. He's got some corny jokes, but it's a really good podcast. And
Yeah.
I haven't listened to any other faith-based ones. I used to on this thing on Stitcher. That's where the podcast. My podcast is on Stitcher as well. But faith-based ones, I haven't really much. I think I haven't found one that's just as. There's a lot of faith-based podcasts, but I think I haven't found the right one that I'm like, that's the one right there. I mean, the Not a Christian podcast is good, but there's you know, there's so many. I have to like, okay, this is cool, you know, but yeah. So that's what I've been listening to lately. Just a lot of podcasts.
Definitely for sure check out the Views from the Porch. They literally talk about anything and everything, and the Becoming Something or Becoming Someone podcast too is really good, that are faith-based. But those, like I said, I haven't kept up just because like during COVID they just went crazy, and I was like, wait, hold on, I can't keep up.
Yeah, no, I understand that completely. So, but yeah, I mean, that's what we've been listening to. I think it's kind of like already catching up. It's almost midnight here, so. But
what happened last time?
Yeah, that went for a long time. But yeah, this is like 3 hours and like 2 minutes. So
this is not gonna be, well, it is kind of juicy because there was a small life update in there, because I swore that I wasn't gonna be meeting anyone, but obviously things took a turn.
Yeah, like I said, you know, you and Sam, and Sam had her own little path that she went, you know, after the online dating episode, and you had a different one. And like I said, it was really cool. A lot of people listened to that one and they enjoyed it, and they actually want like a second part, but I was like, how am I going to do a second part of online dating with the same people when we've already talked about our experiences? So,
but we go on different, I mean, like we go on different dates, like,
yeah,
you know, it's a new way. It's like, oh, well, how do you feel about it now? I mean, because I know Sam was jumping back on at that time, whenever we did it, and then for me, I was getting off of it, and so, you know, it's kind of seeing from there. It's like, well, what do you want to see on part 2? Like, do you want is Sam still continuing? And then like, for me, it's like, I wasn't completely.
Yeah.
I mean, I got off for a while. But.
As far as I know, I haven't really talked to Sam because, like I said, I worked on her podcast, but after that, we kind of like they wanted to do the podcast on their own. So I was like, okay, that's cool. So I haven't really like talked to her as much, but as far as I know, I think she's still on the dating apps and hasn't really been successful. But
that's
something will happen. you know.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, I was like, maybe I can do part 2, but like with different people. Like, hey, this is online dating, and like these are these people's experiences, or do like a real life dating, like in real life. But I haven't thought about it yet, because dude, I've been just like, I have a schedule set. So like I said, I post a schedule of what I'm going to be talking about and what the episodes are based on. So I'll probably release it tomorrow, but for the people that are listening, you'll probably hear this before I release the schedule. Next week's episode is a double feature. So of course it's with that pastor Bruce Mejia, and then it's just a regular episode with me. So you'll get 2 episodes in 1 week. The week after that, we're doing a small business episode with Stephanie's friend Fidel. He has a small business, and then I have Houston's own Pop Soap. You know, they're a small business as well, and I have them on the podcast. We're going to be talking about small businesses and how what gave them the inspiration to start their business. You know, the things that they had to go through with their small business, the ups and downs, how COVID affected them, and where do they see themselves and how they're going to make their product better, I guess, in the future, you know, stuff like that. So that's what the small business is going to be about. And then I don't know if you know who she is, but do you know like the Selena impersonator that we have here in Houston?
No, I don't.
Okay, so we have this Selena impersonator. Her name is Amanda Solis, and she is pretty well known as being like top tier, like Selena impersonator. She looks like her, you know. She does like voiceovers and stuff like that. I think her handle on Instagram is like Bitty Bitty Bom Bom, I think. Yeah, I emailed. Oh, I didn't email her, but I messaged her through Instagram, and I think her agent reached out to me via email, and we've been talking back and forth. And I was like, I want to get somebody, because Selena's birthday is April 16th, which is also my mom's birthday. So I wanted to find somebody that I guess we would talk about Selena, because I've had an episode just about TV series, but I wanted to have somebody who impersonates her, so you know, brings Selena back to life through her eyes and stuff like that. She also has her own music career as well, and yeah, I'm very excited to have her on the show. What was that?
I think I had seen a video of her before, and now that I see her, I'm like, oh my god, she does kind of look like her, like even with her like without dressing up and things like that. That's crazy.
Yeah, she did something with ABC 13 last year Christmas. Mm-hmm. Like I said, she goes all around the country performing. She does quinceañeras, she does weddings, she does parties. You know, and she's a regular church. I'm not a church person. She's just a regular chick, you know, who loves Selena. So I'm excited to have her on here. And then of course I have my episode with Steven Martinez, aka Mega Man. It's going to be a really good episode as well. We went like 2.5 hours, I think, because like I said, LA is a time difference. So you know, I had to work at a later time, and you know, with that, but it's a really good episode as well. And then next month, in May, I haven't decided what I wanted to do, but that one's going to be a jam pack, because it's like 5 Saturdays, I think, in that month. So I have to like plan for that one. But I am thinking of doing like what I wish I could do if I could go back to high school kind of episode. You know. Ooh. Yeah. So it's going to be really juicy and really exciting. I'm thinking that's what it's going to be for me. I've been reaching out to some other people as well. Some celebrities, some local celebrities, to see if maybe I can get them on the podcast. If not, that's cool. But like, I'm just reaching out there and seeing what I can get, you know, just to fish. So, but yeah, next month's episodes are going to be really fun. They're going to be really exciting. There's going to be a lot of good stuff happening for me as well. I'll be featured on other people's podcasts as well. So it's going to be fun. And like I said, You're going to be doing yours as well, be authentic and stuff like that. So that's one I'm going to be really listening to as well. Like I said, I liked the little first 8-minute episode that you had. I was like, okay, this is cool. I'm waiting for more. And then it was like,
I left it
more.
with the hook.
Yeah, it's like a cliffhanger, and I was like, oh, what happened? You know.
I have to learn how to like not have somebody to listen to me. So I think that's also like the issue. Like whenever, not gonna lie, whenever I recorded that episode, I was literally sitting at work in a room by myself.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I kind of like, I want to be by myself and record. I don't have any distractions and stuff like that. Because when you do, you start getting like distracted, and you're like, oh, somebody's listening to me. I don't want nobody to listen to me. Yeah. So, but like I said, that's gonna be something. Of course, I'm gonna be supporting and stuff like that. I'll be sharing your stuff and all that. Because I have you on my podcast, and we both. Like I said, we're both cool, and I'm like, you know what, supporting podcaster locally and stuff like that too. So, what else? I think that's it. So, thank you again, Sandra, for being on the podcast. It's been really fun. Like I said, we really didn't know what we were going to talk about, and it kind of it went to where it was supposed to go. So.
To those people who saw my story where I was like, ask us a question. Y'all ain't real because nobody asked. But maybe there was a reason why nobody asked, which is fine.
Exactly. That's why whenever I feel the same way, I'm like, nobody asked any questions. Which is funny because now what I started doing is on Instagram, they have reels, I guess. Yeah, I made my first reel, and I kid you not, and I shit you not. That reel got how many? Where is it? It has 2,115 views.
What?
Yeah, and I made that like Wednesday. But I think it's because it was promoting the giveaway that I'm doing. So, but yeah, I had like more people participate in the giveaway, and I was like, finally, this is what I'm waiting for.
I have a chance to win this time.
You never know. Anybody can win it.
Get out of the drawing. It's my turn again.
But yeah, it's exciting doing that stuff like that. Like I said, I'm trying to push my podcast a little bit more and all that. But anyways, like I said, thank you again, Sandra, for being on the podcast. Thank you for reaching out. You were the only one that reached out. But like I said, all that was for a purpose, because this episode was supposed to happen. Whatever we talked about was supposed to be talked about. And whenever this episode is released, whoever hears it was meant to hear it. So.
All right, guys, it's time for us to go because it's almost bedtime.
Yeah, you got to get your beauty sleep, and I have to get up. I got to get up early in the morning and got to edit this before I go to church. So.
Oh no, I actually have to get up early. I have to let my friend's dog out. She's like, she needs to be out at like around 5, and I was like, in the morning.
Well, this has been Inside the North Side. Like again, thank you again, Sandra. And yeah, guys, we'll see you later.